שנוסעת בי אוי 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 אלוהי אוי אתו ורוסה ויאתו יצרת ויאתו מפחדו בי אליקאי נשמה שנוסעת בי אוי 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 אלוהי אוי Yeah. famar Yudina. Uy, 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 chazi, chazi, chazi. Uy, bonai chaviva. Chazi, chazi, bonai chaviva. Uy, 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 dem ishtachi. Uy, bitzar di leon. V'yasni, v'chevre sodili. Chazi, bonai chaviva. Chazi, chazi, bonai chaviva. Bide mishtachti b'tzar, b'tzar di leho. V'yoskin b'chedre sodili. Uy, 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 chazi, chazi, chazi. Oy, bonai chaviva. Chazi, chazi, bonai chaviva. Uy, 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 dem ishtachin. Uy, betzar adim leho. V'yaskin b'chedre sodili. Chazi, chazi, bonai, bonai chaviva. Chazi, chazi, bonai chaviva. Bidem ishtachin betzar, betzar di lehoy. V'yoskin b'chedre sodili. oni tiri da 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 tiri da 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 tiri do lo do lo do ovadeti bi oni tiri do lo do da tiri da 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 tiri do lo do ovadeti bi oni Sashiro azoy Ve'elamet es b'nei Yisroel Ve'yachto Ve'ki yizvu lachem Es Sashiro azoy Ve'elamet es b'nei Yisroel Oy toiro ando isho Tzvane ni me makosho Leitz nu narot b'yedu isho Toiro ando isho Tzvane ni me makosho Tzvane ni me makosho Oy toiro Sashiro azoy Ve'elamet es b'nei Yisroel Ve'yachto Ve'ki yizvu lachem Es Sashiro azoy Ve'elamet es b'nei Yisroel Sanni bevako show. B'nei tzuv u'vernaro z'vigdu show. Oh, yo, yo. Doiro agdor show. Sanni bevako show. Sanni yo bevako show.
Bruchim Aboim, good evening. What a beautiful, beautiful event tonight. In honor of as we can sagen, the Chvoide Shel Torah, but really the Chvoide Shel Torah. I once heard at a Farbrengen, somebody was bothering somebody else. And he was telling him, what is a chassid? He said, a chassid is an ambulance. What does the ambulance do? He goes out there, he picks up those who need help, and he brings them to the hospital, to wherever they need to be delivered. Now, ambulance, if you look at it, it has lights, sirens, beautiful stickers, makes noise. But sometimes there can be an ambulance. He has all the lights and the sirens and everything nice and looks beautiful on the outside. But if there's no gasoline in the ambulance, the person who is sick, who needs help, will not get anywhere. So the ambulance needs to have gasoline. A chassid can have a hat, a jacket, dress, look the part, have the lights and the sirens, shrayen, zingen. But if you don't have the gasoline that takes to help another person to get where he needs to get, then what's the point? Why am I saying this? Because when I got to know this Kollel, initially when Shlomi Greenwald, my dear friend, came up with the idea, I thought to myself, and I remember when I was a Ingaman, and I married my Rebbetzin Bumi's Tochter from Kiryat Malachi. I lived in Nachla. A beautiful Edelkop over here can be attest to this. I lived in Nachla Sar Chabad. I think it's the only Lubavitch, real old Lubavitch shtetl still left in our days. And I got up the first morning after the Sheva Brochas, gelegt the Mantach of the places, and here I am, I'm going to the mikveh in Nachla. On the way, I meet a chassid by the name of Ramotl Kozlina. And Ramotl says to me, hello, Boker Tov, wo gehst du? So ich gehe in mikveh. Yeah, das verstehe ich, aber noch ein mikveh. Where you go? I say, I'm going to Kollel. So he looks at me, Ich gehe in Kollel. Tiferes Kenim Levi Yitzchok. I didn't know what he wants from me. I was a younger man. They said, you're supposed to go to Kollel. I ended up going to Kollel, but after 3 days in Kollel, I realized why I wasn't so successful in yeshiva either. But when I Shlomi came to me and said to me, listen, I'm opening a Kollel. I want you to be a shutef. And when I came to that Kollel, I realized this is not just a regular Kollel. This is a Kollel that fuels the future Rabbonim and Manhigim with the highest grade of fuel possible. And it was very easy that at the time, if to reach out to my brother or to reach out to my father or to reach out to any type of Rabbonim to come or to even bring in other partners with me to support the Kollel, it made it very easy because it's not just a Kollel, it's by the Kaveshtib, as they say in the Hasidische Welt. It's a Kollel that, as you can see for yourself, brings out the future Manhigim in Lubavitch. With that said, I want to give a special thank you for all those who participate and partner up and helping out and making this Kollel a success. I want to thank the Talmidim. I want to thank the Rabbonim who are here tonight. And I want to give a very special thank you Shloimi, to you, for bringing me into such a good shutfus. I want to say a special thank you to Rabbi Shuchat and Rabbi Amnik for dedicating the time to make this a success. I would like to call up my mashpia. I have a personal on the Badova, Rabbi Simon Jacobson. Rabbi Simon Jacobson is known for Meaningful Life Center, changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of Jewish people around the world. I remember when my daughter got married 2 years ago, the Shaila, what for a shura to give out at the wedding, which is going to be a diversified wedding, say Chassidim, say people from the university, say Fume, Freie, Chassidim. There was no question in my mind that the sefer I'm going to give out at the Chasana is going to be towards a meaningful life. We know him as the Rebbe's Chayzer. He was once at a major TV show. He was introduced as the bridge that connects Chassidishkeit, Yiddishkeit to the secular world. And it gives me honor and a privilege, and you guys are privileged to have him at the Mashpia and the Kollel to call upon Arav Simon Jacobson to be Pesach B'dvar Malchus.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone. Peschen with Aksiva V'chsima Teva, Shana Teva Mesuka, Begashmis and Beruchnis, Archove, Tech Brias, Arichis Yom V'shanim Tevis, and Ashnas Geula. So I want to thank Rav Dudi Farkash also mentioning the ambulance analogy. It jogged my memory, and we all know the city called Chelm, right? In every community there's a Chelm, even here in Crown Heights. So Chelm was this little shtetl. They say there were a lot of smart people there. But the neighbors were resentful, so they created this whole folklore of the fools of Chelm, Naronim of Chelm. So we have hundreds and hundreds of stories that we use. They're great psychological lessons. And one of them, I remember reading many years ago, it was actually my father that wrote it in one of his articles. So Chelm being a small shtetl, and it was at the edge of this town was a little water, so they built a bridge, you know, one of these wooden bridges, that was good enough to carry a horse or a carriage. But then the modern age came upon us, and now there are automobiles and trucks. And the problem was, anyone who was coming into Chelm with a car, the bridge was simply too weak. So it collapsed. And of course, God forbid, people got hurt. And the Chachmei Chelm got together. The ministers and the wizards of the town came together. What do we do? So one person had the idea, you know what, we'll forbid anything that weighs more than a horse. People said, so what, we're not going to have all the benefits? Anyway, you can imagine they debated, but they finally came to a solution, a consensus. And the consensus was this. The hospital is all the way on the other side of the town. Every time the bridge collapses and someone's hurt, it takes another 15 minutes to take them to the hospital. So the consensus was they're going to move the hospital right near the bridge. And that'll solve the problem. When Rab Shlomo came to me, Shlomo Greenwald, first time and asked me to participate in the Kollel, so it's not like I was looking for a job. And I said to him, what do we need another Kollel for, if I may ask? We have a lot of yeshivas, a lot of Kollelim, including in this community. So the word he used, which maybe he may knew what would get to me, but I'll come upon him, the word he used was, want to create leaders. Leaders. What is the difference between a leader and a follower? Among many different things is we learn from the real true leaders in our time, the Rebbe and the leaders before him, that they take the bull by the horns. They don't move the hospital near the bridge. They build a better bridge. And they create and initiate new initiatives and generate ideas. And above all, don't wait till someone comes to solve the problem. My father was once in Yechidus by the Rebbe. It was Pasha Shmeis. And the Rebbe asked him, you're a journalist. Maybe you want to interview me. Smilingly. And my father said to the Rebbe, I could ask anything. He says, in America, there's no censuria. There's no censorship. At least then it wasn't. And so, yes, sure. So my father said, people want to know. That's always the best way to say it. You don't say, I want to know. You say, people want to know. What do they want to know? Why the Rebbe does not create a committee or nasifa or consult with other so-called Gedolei Yisrael or leaders. And he just unilaterally takes on different positions and attitudes and strategies and campaigns. So the Rebbe said this week's Parsha, in Parsha Shmeis, it says that when the Mitzri was torturing the Jew, Moshe saw this happening. And it says, Vayifa Moshe, koi v'koi, v'yar ke'ein ish. Moshe looked here and there and saw there's no ish, there's no one. So then he proceeded and he killed the Mitzri and he buried him under the sand. So the Rebbe said, the Klotz Kasha. Moshe, what was he looking for? He was afraid. A Jew is being hurt. You do what you have to do. So Rashi says he was looking if the Mitzri from the Mitzri would come out any pedigree, any children, descendants that would be important to them to be protected. At the end of the day, it didn't help because Dosan Vavirim did see, and they mastered, and the rest is history. So the Rebbe said, the Posha to Taich is this. A Jew is being hurt. Moshe was looking if anybody cares. Does anybody care? And he saw nobody cares, so he did what he had to do. That was that. When my father came out of Yechidus, the Bochrim asked, what did you hear in Yechidus? So my father said, this is what I heard from the Bochrim later. My father said, the Rebbe said he's the Moshe Rabbeinu of our generation. So that's, of course, his hergish. But that's a leader. And Kemuvan, we are not on that caliber, but the Alter Rebbe already established in Tanya that there's a Moshe within each one of us. So when Shlomo said to me, leaders, not to talk about other mazes, everybody should be well and everybody be blessed to all create leaders. So I felt this was something that's well worth investing in, because the point here is we're now 27 years from Gimel Tammuz, and the Rebbe trained us not to be followers and not to be conformists, but to take the bull by the horns. Exactly that. There are many challenges today. People say, so where do we get direction from? So the Rebbe als bewarnt, as the Rebbe paskened on himself as he spoke about the Friedrich Rebbe. That means we have everything we need, the tools, the resources, the information, the Torah, the Chassidus. What's lacking is that we actually, Tapora de Placho, take those resources and turn them into instruments of change, which essentially is the whole concept of shlichus. So to create a kela that will be focused, not just on Yediyas and Torah, which it has to have, Nigla and Chassidus and Primis HaTorah, but above all, that those that are produced from this kela are trained, whatever they end up doing, whether they'll be shluchim, or mechanchim, or mashpim, or rabbonim, or even whatever they are, they'll always should be influencers, not bystanders, but people who look at the situation and become in their community a shining light and a dugma chaya. Like the Rebbe Rashab said, there's a chosed of machan asviva. A chosed has to create an environment. And he says something even sharper, the next line. He says, and if you don't create an environment, you have to ask yourself, why did your neshama come down to this world? Ad kedei kach, to that extent. So what also comes to mind is in Tovshin Lamed Tes. You always want to look in the Rebbe's Sichos, where he speaks about a kollel, to see the Rebbe's particular focus or emphasis, chidush. So talking in Tovshin Lamed Tes, Chof Ches Shvat, there was a yechidus of Rabbi Yitzchak Groner from Australia, Melbourne, and a group of people who were then traveling to Melbourne, to Australia, to open up the first kollel in Australia. So the Rebbe spoke about kollel, and actually very heavily was magia and edited that the few words that he said as a bracha to them. And then Purim, which came a little later, that was Chof Ches Shvat. Purim, the whole sikha from the Rebbe on the inyan of a kollel. It's kedai to learn and review. But I want to just chazer one thing from there. which I think captures the essence, the mission, and the purpose of this Kollel. So the Rebbe is medayik that the word Kollel comes from the word, originates from the word kol. Complete, all. But then there's kol, then there's klal, and there's a Kollel. And the Rebbe explains the difference between the three. That kol can be a yochid that has everything. He learns nigla, he learns primus atera, but it's just him. So it's kol, it's b'shleimus. Klal means always that there's more than one. But klal could also be passive. It's not defkin shem pu'ula. It could be a klal of something, and it's not a klal that someone made an effort to make the klal. It just happens to be that a bunch of different details came together in one klal, in one rule, one collective rule. Kollel, the Rebbe says, loshen pu'ula, it's a verb. It means you're kollel something. You make an effort. And the Rebbe says that the Kollel emphasizes, says Yesh Lema, the extra lamed emphasizes that it's not just kol beis Yisrael. It's not just klal, but it's Kollel, that the role of each person in the Kollel is to be a tefeach amnas latfiach. That's the Rebbe's exact lashon. A tefeach amnas latfiach. That he does not just come away with his own knowledge and information, but he must influence others. And Purim, the Rebbe was meidich about it. Al pinigla said the word Kollel is not used anywhere in Chazal in the context of what we know what a Kollel is, but there is the word Kollel, a Isser Kollel. An Isser, which is, we know there's a whole machlekes whether Isser Chalal Isser, whether, for example, someone, God forbid, eats a Dover Osser on Yom Kippur, so there's two Isurim, the eating on Yom Kippur and the Dover Osser. So is a person over on two Isurim or only on one? The Psak Din is that there is an Isur Kollel that it's two. And the Rebbe says from the negative you can learn to the positive. The whole Arichas and Nigla there, the machlekes between the Ram and the Raavad, I led that to the Kollel Yungalite, can be mafalpul in that Sikha, understanding the very mahus of what this Kollel is about. But the Bechein, the takeaway message is that we do consider it both. So, meruba mida teva mida peronias. That what? In a positive sense, that when you bring together a few people together in a klal, and more than that they're Kollel also others. Tefeach hamnas latfiach, that you just don't have the maila of a yachid or a klal, you actually have the synergy, what's called the Eira Elal Kulona, that's more than the sum of the parts. So, this I understand as being the goal of why we're here, of why you, the Kollel Yungalite, and your families are part of this Kollel, why there's part of this Zvulun, the Shutfis with this Zvulun, is not just to have another Kollel, like the Rebbe Rashab said, another yeshiva for Temchet Mimim, but to be soldiers, to become Anshe Tzova, Yetzel Muhammad's Beis David. That whatever you end up doing, you will be mashpia and influence Kollel, everyone around you. And that is very well worth an investment, because it's not just an investment in one person or even in 25 people or 30 people. It's generational, because every one of you will become a rabbim and will affect a rabbim. That's the expectation. And frankly, if we don't achieve that, I'm not sure why this Kollel exists, with all respect. But I'm saying it in the chiyuv, because when you could produce that, then you could see people are going to go to whatever community. And today, more than ever, we are the Rebbe's arms and legs. Our Eser Keches HaNefesh. And we are the Rebbe's mouthpiece. So we have to, that is our job. It's not option. It's not an option. It's a necessity. This Kollel is meant to produce that, then it's worth every penny and every ounce of energy and all the investment that all of us are making, both on Holas, HaKollel, the supporters, and of course the Kollel Yungalite themselves. And as the Rebbe concludes there in the Sikha, Kollel, Kol Godel Yeshuva Heino, it's ultimately Hachana, that will be the Kol Godel, the entire community will return, the Geula Amitis Vashlema, and may this Kollel, even before the new year, produce that result. And then, of course, the Kollel will be including many, many more people. I don't know how much they'll need Rab Shleima then for the fundraising, but why not? I'm sure continue doing what he did now, Talmudei B'Yodei. And we should be zeicha again to a good gebench to a year of Geula Mitzvah Shlema. Tovshin Pei Beis, the Rebbe in Tovshin Nun Beis said, Nifloyes Bakel. So I'm assuming, Yeshlem B'derech Hefshe, that it's Ployes Bakel. Bakel, Mikol, Kel, and everything, Begashmis and Beruchnis, Gemeter Brias and Nechena, get through these crazy times and march into the Geula Amitis Vashlema together with the Rebbe and all the Rabbeim. Take it from Miyad, Mamish.
Amen. Yeshua Rabbi Jacobson. Please pay attention to the TV, the video screens, whatever, the masachim over here, to watch a video of the Rebbe about charity, tzedakah, partnership, v'chulu. Video screens.
In der Tag in Cheshbein ist, wenn geht zu Tzedakah, es darf sein nicht verbunden mit Seichel. A viele nicht mit nicht was lebt, nur geht das gleich nicht was jot. Und mit dieses war Geboles.
מי שהיה אצל הרבי בשבת בראשית זוכר שקונים את המפטיר ואת היין ואת הלחם להתוודויות של הרבי. אני בן אדם שלא היו לי משפיעים ולא למדתי בלובביץ'. אז עמדתי כמו חמור שמה, ושמעתי שנותנים כסף, אז אמרתי גם כן, אני רוצה לתת $1,000 בנוכחות כולם. ולא אמרתי מדמה, לא ידעתי. והרבי התחיל לצחוק, פנה אליי עם הפנים הקדושות שלו, ואמר, פנח וילך לשת, פנח וילך פנפטויז. ואני אמרתי ישר לרבי, אני נותן את זה. אז הרבי פנה אליי בנוכחות כולם, ואמר לי, ירגיתס בשמחו רבו וטוב לבו. אז אמרתי שאני נותן את זה בשמחה רבה וטוב לבב. והרבי אמר, אוי בזוי, die בכך אבטוח גמורה, אז בריורן der Zeit und ich können geben Käfer gefreien. אז ליוויתי ישר בבנק $5,000 שלחתי.
Und wie der Rebbe der Nossi hat gesagt, dass Aide Machlit geben auf Tzedakah als Schum, was in Gashmis in der Tor bei Ismaise kein Pesach mehr helfen. Also können geben dem Schum, geöffnet ihm der Rebbe Ruf a Ziner Chodesh. Also soll können mit keinem sein Achlatos Atebe bimilua und tun das mit der Simcha vetuv levo, wo der Funde verstandig am Egitem kam upon im Kocher, der soll können weggeben dem Schum mit Simcha vetuv levo.
כשאני נסעתי לבים הביץ' הרב אמר לי לבנות נרסיגום. והרב נתן לי בקבוק וודקה קטן, והוא אמר לי שאתה תפגוש את השליח שלי שמה, רבי קורף. אז תשתה איתו לחיים, ואני מקווה שיצא מזה דבר גדול. באתי לשמה וסיפרתי לו את כל הסיפור, והוא אומר לי, הוא רוצה להכיר אותי, אחד שבונה נרסיגומס. נו, שמחתי, בנינו את הנרסיגום, וזה כבר לפני החגים, ואני אומר לאשתי, אוי, בדף שבאלט פורנץ ברם, את הרבת גזור חוגים כיפו כפליים, אז שוב פעם היא נתנה לי מנה, אתה שואל שאלות על הרבת. היא הייתה נוראה. פתאום באים אליי מהבית חולים אוסטיופטיק שבנו על יד בית אבות, ושואלים אותי אם זה לבחירה. אל תשאל כמה פעמים יותר משהו בדבניה, אל תשאל. אז אני כבר נוסע לרבה לשמחת תורה.
Und sa sichere Sache, der Rebester steht בהבטחוסי, ובפרט עד אז קומט הרוב in הדין שולחן אורך, aber נגיע zu Tzedakah, sagt der Rebester ובחנוני no בוזייס. Auf al Pi, was בכלל soll sich nicht sein der Ingen von Eisproben dem Ebersten, mit dem Eisnamen, wie es wird gebracht in Schulchan Aruch, Chelik jere Deya, und Hilches Doki non heit, aber ne gehe zu Doki, so demolte der Rebester nicht nur se meg sein de Pchino, no der Rebester bet sich up Chonuni no bo se is bet am solle Meispru.
Yeah, here you go. It's not a crowd that you need to convince when you see this kind of things. It's a dover abo. I remember when I was Gaber B'Shmuel, a lot of the young light were starting their stage and becoming the future Lubavitch millionaires. And I would stand there and tell the people to pledge Yomim Tevim. And mit gesehen meise bepoel, and when you pledge without being afraid, the Eibishter Gider, Effen dir Anayim Zinner. I remember when I went into this business of insurance, I met with my brother Zeder, Rebel Weiss, and Rebel Weiss hat mir gesagt, du wird, bis geben Muna Cheshben, mit der Rebbeinu Shalom, der geben Muna Cheshben. Ob nicht meure. And this is what it is. I would like to call upon the next speaker, the Rosh Kolel. And I want to say, be'emshich to what Rabbi Jacobson said about being a leader. This is the purpose of this kollel, and this is why people are invested in this kollel. Being a son of a rabbi, being a brother of my brother Mordechai, and other rabbonim in the mishpacha. I've seen a fascinating thing, and that's why I think you guys are lucky to have Rabbi Shuchat as Rosh Kollel. Last year, in the opening of the kollel, I said a story with Mordechai Eliyahu, that there was a shaila from life and death, and my father got on the phone, and the Rebbe got on the phone, and at the moment it looked like something very scary, and that my tata had gepasket up Sakdin, that in the eyes of in the medicine world and in the eyes of the world, it looked like only somebody that is a leader, somebody that has breiter places. And the Rebbe said, Amen. Tzadi Geizer v'Kadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim, and Baruch Hashem, the story over there ended up very, very good. On a different note, sometimes I get from my father messages as a Mechaber Sforim, as a Pesach, and I don't have to tell you. And I get questions. One night, I'm like 3 o'clock in the morning, my father is sending me a question. 3 o'clock in the morning, Israel time. He says, Dudi, wie sagt man auf English a pompe? A pompe is a plunger. I say, mitten Nacht, am Montag in a pompe. No, I'm riding in Shabbos now. I said, I get my father on the phone. I said, listen, there's enough controversy about your toilet paper psukim on Shabbos, and now you're asking me about plunger. And last week, 2 weeks ago, I'm going to share with you a personal story. It hit me. It made me understand what is a manig. I'm sitting in the car. My phone rings. A dear friend of mine calls me about a life and death question. Somebody taken him to the hospital. Should they connect him to machines, to not connect him to machines? Please ask your father. This guy is a dear friend of mine. I know him personally. And I'm thinking to myself, the guy is calling me from an Atzola ambulance. They're taking his father into the hospital. And he wants to know, I should ask my father. I start turning the world upside down. He was past Shilas. I get a hold of my father finally. He gets the phone, he checks on the phone, and he tells Paskins. And he made us a psak that when the phone fell out of my hand. He said that if there is a situation that it's going to make the person better, then of course, and if not, zog vidui. How do you tell somebody zog vidui? The phone dropped out of my hand. Called back the guy, then I broke down. I'm a very emotional guy, that's why I can't be a rov. And I called up my brother Mordechai in Seattle. I said, Mordechai, ich will the song the Shaila, the song dem Teretz, let me know. Maybe my father is busy, so he gave me this answer. He says, 100%. Das ja, meister, kvoide Odom, a mensch, this, that. Then I realized what it takes one to be a manik, what it takes to be a leader, what it takes to be a poisek. So Eketzen and Keketzen and sitting at home and studies for him, we don't need this. We need this for manigim. And Rabbi Sholem Shuchat is, I think, the most qualifying young rabbi in our time and day. I always like I reach out to him about some difficult cases, and he's always there for me. And you guys are lucky to have him as Rosh Kollel. So Rabbi Shochat, please come up.
Thank you very much, Rav Farkash, for the beautiful hesped. It's a hemshech to the story about the question of life and death, so it's definitely a great continuation. I'd like to open up with thanking the people who make this kollel a reality, my shutfim in this kollel, shutfim in the day-to-day operation of the kollel, Rabbi Greenwald, Meyasid and the Menal of the kollel, whom we spoke about this kollel idea 10 years ago when we were Chavrus's Choshen Mishpat, when both of us didn't know where we're going to be today. And my shutaf in the kollel on a day-to-day basis, Rabbi Hamnik, and obviously the sponsors, the people who give the money, who are shutfim in the Limud HaTorah on a regular basis. I'd like to thank my father, who is sitting here with me, and if not, he started teaching me Torah, and I think that by this time he already had a chance to have a little bit of nachas for me. The Medrash says in a few places, a very famous Medrash, everybody knows it, Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu liyesloi dira b'sachteinim, the Eibishter, before he created the world, wanted the world, there should be in the world a place, a residence for him here in this world. A residence, like the Medrash says, just like he has spiritual in Belyonim, same thing, he wants to have a dira b'sachteinim here. The whole purpose of the world was for this Dira b'sachteinim. The Alter Rebbe says it in Tanya, Tachlis Brias Ha'olam is for Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu liyesloi dira b'sachteinim. It took a while from the creation of the world until this Dira b'sachteinim came to be in a physical building. First there was, after Matan Torah, there was the Mishkan, which was temporary. A few hundred years later became the Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash lasted a few hundred years and got destroyed. And Kaviyachol, the Eibishter, was left without a home. Then a second Beis Hamikdash was built. That too was destroyed. And since then, Shchinta Begalusa, the Eibishter, does not have a physical, permanent residence. That's what we think, right? That's what it looks like. It's not so. There's a Gemara Maseches Broches. Rav Chizde, there's from Rav Chia Barami and Rav Chizde. Rav Chia Barami says in the name of Ula, Miyoim Shechorav Beis Hamikdash, from the day that Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, all the Eibishter has in this world is small, the Arba Amas, like the minimum size. 6 today, everybody knows Arba Amas because that's the distance for Corona, 6 feet, but before Arba Amas, about 6 feet by 6 feet. That's the area of halacha bilvad. That's it. That's all he has. That means that after Churban Beis Hamikdash, the Gemara was written shortly thereafter, the place where the Eibishter feels at home is Daled Amis Shel Halacha. It's obviously not the prime location. It should be a Beis Hamikdash, but under the circumstances, that's the best location the Eibishter has instead of the Beis Hamikdash. Why specifically halacha? Now, by the way, the same Gemara also says, right before that statement, the pasuk Oyev Hashem Sharei Tzion Mikol Mishkanei Yaakov. The Eibishter, the Gemara explains what does that mean. That the Eibishter prefers, likes She'arim HaMetziyonim B'Halacha more than Shos and Batei Midrashos. Why halacha? There is a Maharal, Tiferes Yisrael, explains. When the Eibishter chose Eretz Yisrael, chose the center of the world. Eretz Yisrael is the center of the world. In Eretz Yisrael, the Eibishter chose Har HaMoriah, the center of Eretz Yisrael. and there he put the Beis HaMikdash. Why is that? The Maharal explains, because everything in Kedusha is the center. Something which veers to the right or to the left is no longer Kedusha, it's connected to Gashmias. The further you are from the center, the further you are the further you veer from the center, the further you are from truth. What happened after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed? The Eibishter chose the next thing, which is the center, which is the truth, and that is halacha. Maharal explains that halacha is part of Torah, which is the center, that there's no veering right and left. Maharal says seichel hapashut. That's the words of the Maharal. It's interesting to note that when the Alter Rebbe explains this Maimer Chazal, Alter Rebbe says when he explains this Maimer Chazal is quoted hundreds of Maimorim of the Rebbeim. I'm just going to go through some of them, which are important to understand. It says when the Alter Rebbe explains, when a person studies Torah, he is in one room with the Eibishter. So much so, the Alter Rebbe explains, in the room where you study Torah, that is Ikar Shrias Shchina Umisham Mispashetes L'chol Ha'olam. The Shchina settles in that room, and from there it spreads outwards. That's what the Alter Rebbe explains. It means the place of Torah, place of halacha, is the place where the Eibishter, like we know, Dalad Amashah halacha, but the Alter Rebbe explains, this is where the Shechina is, and from there it spreads across the world. The Mittler Rebbe uses a very interesting example why Dafka Dalad Amashah halacha. He says, after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, the Eibishter is like a deer which ran away. Every time it was chased away. Every time the deer is running away, he turns his back to where he's running from. So the Eibishter turns back. To where did he turn back? The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. He turns back to the halacha. And then there's this Maimer Chazal explained in various ways. The point being is that the learning of halacha, Dalad Amashah halacha, is the place, is the location where the Eibishter feels the most comfortable. The replacement, temporary replacement of the Beis HaMikdash until such time the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt. The Rebbe explains in Maimer Basel Legani Tovshin Mem Zayin that learning Torah explains on this medrash, on this Divrei Chazal of Dalad Amashah halacha. Through learning Torah, that brings the V'shochanti b'soichom kipshutoi. And that means that the Eibishter comes. And that is a Achana Kroiva to the building of the Beis HaMikdash through Mashiach. Tonight's Chitas, Wednesday of this week's Parasha, there's a Pasuk. V'shov Hashem elikecha es shvuscha v'richamecha v'shov v'kibetzcha mikol ha'amim asher fitzcha Hashem elikecha shama. Rashi right away asks a question. That says that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to bring back the Yidden from Golus and collect you from all the nations of the world. Rashi right away asks the question, what's a V'shav? He's coming back. Should have been V'heshiv, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to bring you back. V'shav means that the Eibishter is coming back with you. He says from here we learn the Shechina is in Golus with the Yidden during the time of Golus. And when the Geula is going to happen, the Eibishter is also going to be redeemed. And how is that done? How do you come to that? We have the Maimer we just mentioned from the Rebbe that the preparation and what's going to be Achana Kroiva is through learning Torah. Pasuk that the Rebbe spoke about many, many times, Tzion b'mishpat tipodeh v'shaver b'tzdaka refers to b'mishpat tipodeh, Tzion Eretz Yisrael will be redeemed b'mishpat through learning Torah. And that is how the Eretz Yisrael will be redeemed, the Eretz Bnei Yisrael will be redeemed from Golus. And we know we're holding right now a few days away from Shnas HaShemitah, which is Geula Titnu La'aretz, the land, so to speak, also gets redeemed. Kipshutei Mamash, And the reason why the Chachamim wanted Yemoisa Moshiach is for the purpose of being able to learn Torah. Being able to learn Torah without any worries. What essentially we give the Kollel younger light. But we try to do it, but this is going, Moshiach is going to come, it's going to be for all Bnei Yisrael. And through this, of learning Torah, Zman HaGolus, which is Achana Kreva for the coming of Mashiach, that is going to bring the time of La'yeh Eise Kol Ha'olam Kuloi Elo Lodas Es Hashem Bilvad. Will bring to the time when there will be no other focus other than learning Torah. For this that we are participating in this by the Balabatim, the partners, and supporting this and ensuring that the people could learn Torah, and Torah specifically Torah Shebal Peh and Halacha, which is the place where the Eibishter feels at home temporarily, like the Beis Hamikdash. That is what will bring closer the coming of Mashiach, when everybody will have no other focus other than learning Torah. Lodas Es Hashem Bilvad. B'mheira b'yameinu. Amen.
Shkoyach, the Rosh Kollel. I would like to call upon a partner of mine, a Ingalite that learns in Kollel, Ingaman that learns in Kollel, to represent the Kollel Ingalite, Arav Atomi Mendel winner, future leader, Kadosh Shem Shamayim, Shem Lubavitch. Please come up and deliver the words on behalf of the other Kollel Ingalite. Rabbi Winner, Bechavod.
Everyone wants to make a difference. An impact. It's part of our DNA. As Chassidim of our Rebbe, you were taught time in and out that we're not private citizens. It's both our schus and achrayas to be Neidus L'Horaa. Tonight we are celebrating the success of an initiative taken by people who care, people who want to make a difference. The Rebbe once said, he has a taiva. He has a taiva. What's his taiva? The junge Leute sollen kochen and learn. Now, of course, there are many different parts of Torah that one can kochen. But like the Rebbe Rashab explains in Samach Vav, that the emes of Torah is truly expressed when it's brought down to halacha l'maaseh. So tell me, which other part of Torah do you think is more important to kochen than aliba de hilchasa? The Rebbe wants lamdim. The Rebbe wants rabbanim who can paskin hashayla. I always enjoyed learning, but after joining this kollel and taking two vast sugyas, kvois, ribis, and learning them in depth, I saw halacha from a whole different light. It's tremendous. And I feel like the tools that I learned here can help me immensely on shluchas. You can't compare when someone comes to the table with a broad knowledge of Torah, especially halacha l'maaseh. So I want to take the liberty to thank those who are behind this amazing initiative. Starting with our very own Menala Kollel, Rabbi Shlomo Greenwald, for spearheading this program. And handpicking an exceptional team as our Anhala. Thank you for personally being involved in all matters of the kollel, making sure that we have the most enjoyable and successful experience. Thank you, our Resha Kollel, Rav Agon, Rabbi Shuchat, for your fabulous shiurim. and for being kind enough to share with us a sliver of the fascinating halachic shilas that you are faced with on a daily basis. Thank you, Rabbi Hamnick, for your extreme dedication throughout all the hours of the day. At night as well, answering our questions, guiding us, and showing us how nothing is too difficult to learn and research. Thank you, Rabbi Jacobson, for your deep shiurim chassidus and for training us how to share the Rebbe's teachings to all. And thank you all the balabatim, the zvulins, who are schwitzing away at work and kind enough to support such an important project. Agresha Yashakayach.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Mendel Winner. Enjoy the good food, music. Soon we're going to hear more from our menahel, from our guests. It's time to enjoy. Thank you very much. איך אני בתור מנחה שלא יודע, לא מכין את עצמו בכלל.
Oh alafi keimo kein nafshi saro gelefo eloki עינינו לחוס אלוהיוס ים שתיכוננו וסוי תיכבוי משפטנו אוי אוי Thank you. Moshe hat uns azay gesagt, ben meyovi esri, und ayoboy, gibalt aroi, no yenamoel, was ich sag, ich hat sind, sag ich variiert. Nasher anoichi mitzamecho vayoi lo hinifleis himecho lo yirechoi koi lo hinifleis himecho lo yirechoi koi Eloi Mashomayim Hiyi Leimoi Mi Alelanu Mashomayim Ay Veveikach Eyalomonu V'yashmiyeinu Yiso V'na'asenu Veloi, 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 veiven ayom leimoi mi amor lanu leiver ayom ay veveikach eyalobonu v'yashmiyeinu yiso v'nasenu I love the place you in the floor. Oh, the holy go. Elohi nifleisi minecho Elohi rechoi kohi Elohi nifleisi minecho Elohi rechoi kohi
You can see it's a Shlomi Greenwald event because the flesh, with the chicken, with the first course, this is like first class. First class, better than first class. I've been to many, many dinners. By the time main course comes out, you don't know what's coming out. Over here, bli ayin hara. Can I sign up for the Kollel, Shlomi? Moira v'Raboisai. So last week, I want to share with you a personal story very quickly. COL put out a news. They found it to find a piece of news that me and my partners and myself are giving a big amount for the Kollel. And right away, of course, phone calls started coming in. What's going on? Why the Kollel? What are you doing? What do you need it for? What do you need advertisement? So I want to tell you something. My partners are non-Lubavitchers. It gives me also opportunity to say thank you to a dear friend of mine that I know for many, many years, who is here tonight, Chesky Kaftail. Chesky Kaftail is I'm going to introduce him soon, but I'm just going to say, the partnership, it's very interesting. He's a non-Lubavitcher. He's based in Flatbush, Borough Park area. And Yossi Sofer, many years ago, we made a program which was called The Jewish Star. And you think to yourself, what is this? Yossi comes to my office and they say, I want to make a Jewish star. At that time, we were busy with Soul to Soul, special children of special needs. And the Jewish Star was like an idea. And he comes to me and he says to me, I want to tell you that Chesky Kaftail is going to be your partner in the Jewish Star. And I thought about this, and I said that Chesky usually invests in, as they say in English, bets on a winning horse. He doesn't waste time on things that are not considered to be a winning and great success. And I'm sure there's a lot of koilers out there who reach out to Chesky to ask him to help. But over here he sees what we saw then in the Jewish Star, that today are some of the top singers in the Jewish music industry, to give people the opportunity to become leaders. So, yes, thank you. So what I want to say is when someone asked me last week, I said there are three things I want to say. Number one, I want to say, all these Yingalayit, you guys are sitting here, as they say in Hebrew, Damid Dameinu Basar Mibsareinu. You're one of us. And it's easy because you're children of family and friends. Chassidim ein mishpacha. It's very hard to support your own family. It's very easy to support your own family, that's what I'm trying to say. But for people from the outside, I was sitting in a meeting while this was blasted the news last week in a different state here in America. And people were like, oh, I said, listen, there is a time that people need to understand that this is what's needed. Shlomi has been somebody that since I got to know him on a personal level, has been involved and been busy putting his things and his efforts and his bets and his money and his time on things where it's needed. If it's a Sefer Torah, if he's united for a Tzola, and the list goes on and on and on. So you guys are lucky to have Reb Shlomi Greenwald as the Menal of the Kollel, Menal Gashmi. So I would like to call up Shlomi to say a few words, and afterwards we're going to give out special recognition plaques. Shlomi, thank you for allowing me to be your partner.
Thank you, Dudi. It was last year, Shabbos, it was my birthday, and we know the minig of Chassidim that we bring by our birthday. Somebody right before Shabbos sends me a sicha. The Rebbe writes that on the Shabbos, Slichis, right before the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, you should make achlotis of tzedakis, pulas that you want to get involved in. And I said to myself, now has come the time. As Rabbi Shuchat mentioned before, we know each other for many, many years, studying in 770 together. Rabbi Shuchat's younger brother, who I learn with till today on the phone every day. We're finishing up Hilchos Ribos now together. I learned in Kolel with him together, in Olater with him together. So the connection between the Shuchat family and myself goes back many, many years. Before Shalom Bir became famous, before Shmulik became famous, these were the people that I fabranged with, I learned with. And I told Rabbi Shuchat, I said, Rabbi Shuchat, 10 years ago I told him, I said, why is it that we don't have a program that if somebody feels that he's capable to be a dayan, a poisik, why don't we have a program that gives them the tools to take them to the next level? And every time I would see him, we would speak about it, and it was just all theoretical. And I called him up Matzei Shabbos, or maybe I sent him a text. I don't know. I'd have to. He's very good in documentation, so he'll probably know better than myself. But I reached out to him. I said, Rabbi Shuchat, I would like to open up a kollel, and I would like you to be the Menal kollel. And right away he says, I'm in. I promise you, we had zero game plan. I didn't know with my busy schedule how I would be able to handle it. Rabbi Shuchat, with his busy schedule, did not know how he was going to be able to handle it. But we said very impulsively, done, we're doing it. And the rest is history. You see tonight, we're going on our second year. We have inaugural L'Horaa between the two groups, close to 50 Yungalite that went through the program already. Yungalite, we have a few Yungalite here that sit already on a Beis Din. When the Rabbonim had to go away for a few weeks, they called Yungalite from our kollel if they can go ahead and take position for 2 weeks to paskin in certain shilas. I never dreamt that we would have this type of atzlacha. Of course, I would like to give Shabbat V'Edah to the Ribono Shel Olam. Sometimes, as you know, we're all people here. There's Rabbonim, Balei Asakim, and not every time that you want to endear on a project, are you successful. So Baruch Hashem, I want to thank on behalf of myself and the kollel, the staff of the kollel. I want to thank the Ribono Shel Olam for giving us tremendous hatzlacha, and I ask a bracha that we should continue to be matzliach, and the Eibishter should give us the chen and das, and the shalom, and the clear mind that we should make the right decisions whatever we do. I want to thank as well, I have, Rabbi Farkash mentioned, I'm involved in many pulas. And before, I'll tell you a little secret, even though we're on a live channel here, before whatever I do, before I get involved in something, as the Rebbe says, you have to ask your mashpia. any move that I do, whether it's personal and business, I do not go ahead and ask and move without asking Rabbi Chaim Shapiro. So I want everyone to please, he's a very humble individual, doesn't ask for covet. But without him, this kollel would not be made possible. Not that he's writing checks, but the vision and the push to open up this kollel is direct thanks to him. So I want to thank, and everyone please give him a round of applause, Rabbi Shapiro, who's here tonight. And I want to give him a special bracha. First of all, a big thank you for always being there personally for myself, and any time that there's a question or anything that we need, he's there answering us in his clarity. And I want to give him a bracha that he should be able to have simchas achayim, nachas from the bochrim in Morristown, and all the people that reach out to him on a day-to-day. The Eibishter should continue to bench you. I want to thank as well from the staff. I want to thank, of course, Rabbi Shuchat, who I do not know how he has the time to do everything he does. Baruch Hashem, the Eibishter blessed him with tremendous chushim, being very, very quick, and not only quick. Sometimes people are quick, but like the Gemara says, "Agav churfa loydok." And Baruch Hashem, the Eibishter gave him tremendous koiches, and the Eibishter should continue to bench you, and you should use your koiches for good things and to continue doing all the great work you do. I want to thank you tremendously for everything you do. I don't say it enough, and I don't express myself enough, but really, als a chaver and als a staff, he gave me the title Menala Kollel. I told him, Reb Shalom Ber, I want to open up the Kollel. I'll make sure that the bills are paid and leave me the rest out of it. He gave me the title Menala Kollel, so I guess I'll take it. But the truth is, he's someone not only giving clear shiurim. Just today, I'll give you an example. We just hired now a 5th staff member, someone, a Rov from Flatbush, and he called the Rabbi Shuchat last minute. He says, Rabbi Shuchat, I'm not going to be able to make it today. He didn't flinch. Right away, he sat down, opened up a Shulchan Aruch. He prepared a shir. I don't know how he did it so quickly, but he had a shir ready to go. Doesn't say a word, doesn't brag about it, doesn't boast about it, doesn't tell the Talmidim how hard he works. He moves, he goes, vayiso. And again, I want to just thank you on behalf of myself and the Avreichim. I want to thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause. I want to thank also, I call him my new chaver because I just got to know him. It's about a year now when Rabbi Shuchat introduced me to him. But also Nechbel HaKelim, very quiet, unassuming, but once you get to know him, he's really a Malay V'Godesh. And he comes with the Edelkeit, always with the Edelkeit, never pushes himself, always is there for the Teva Saklal. That's, of course, Rabbi Hamnik, so let's give him a round of applause. I mentioned before that with Rabbi Shapiro, he's someone that I consult with a lot. But there's also someone else who I consult with a lot, always trying to see what was the Rebbe Shita, what would the Rebbe say over here in this situation. And I don't know him for so long, probably about 2 years, but I feel like he's someone that I know for many, many years, and it's a big schus to have him part of our tzevis. And that's, to my left over here, Harav Simon Jacobson, who really, really gives his life over to the community, gives his life over to people, and really cares for every avrich on an individual level, wants everyone to be matzliach. And like he said before, he wasn't looking for a job. And I called him, and he was challenging me. You know, he says, well, what are you doing? Why are you opening up a kollel? What are you gaining over here? And we sat, and I didn't let go. And Baruch Hashem, he agreed, and we're very excited and enthusiastic that we have him now for a second year. So thank you, Rabbi Jacobson. The Eibishter should give you koiches, that you should be able to continue all the great work you do. And thank you. Thank you for everything. I want to thank as well a friend of mine who I taught with in yeshiva many years ago. He stayed in yeshiva, I went into business, but we kept a kesher as well for many years. And that's Rabbi he's here. Let's see, Rabbi Eli Lapkovsky, who's the Meishiv for Chassidus in the morning. I want to thank as well each and every younger man who came out tonight. I know that being part of the Seder of Kollel is not easy. To keep a very rigorous schedule, come on time, punch in, punch out. It's not easy. Sometimes you're coming from yeshiva, you had your freedom, and now you're told back in Kollel, this is a job over here. You have balabatim paying your salary. You got to take this seriously. So I know sometimes it's annoying, and but you guys are always good sports about it, understanding, and it's a big schus to have you part of the Kollel, and I want to wish each and every one of you a lot of hatzlacha. Some of you guys are leaving, going on shlichus, going into business. So, as you know, you always have my phone number, whatever you need, whether it's business advice, whether it's personal advice. I'm always there for you. And I want to wish those who have come, bruchim aboim, those who are moving on to the next stage. I want to wish you a lot of hatzlacha in whatever you do. I should have mentioned this before, everybody, but knowing my wife, she'd be very she doesn't like to be mentioned, but of course I have to do the right thing. And I want to thank my wife Merla, who's here tonight, for standing on my side, whatever I do. She's always there, together, making sure that I have the time and the space that I need to continue to do all the pulas. So a big thank you to Merla. And of course, thank you to my in-laws who are here tonight, Reb Dov and Chani Kugel, and all their children. And thank you. Reb Dudi, when I called him up the first time about the Kollel, so he's like, okay, you know, Shlomi, I see you do good things. No problem, I'll take on a younger man. And I called him a few months later. I said, Dudi, I need you to take on someone else. He says, done. I called him up before Pesach to give bonuses to the Kollel. I said, Dudi, I want to give $200 to every younger man. He says, Shlomi, less than $500, do not mention my name. And I said, you know, Dudi, you're right. And I went out there, and Baruch Hashem was able to give all the younger light bonuses. So I want to thank Dudi, I want to thank Reb Baruch and Yehuda Konstein, who took on close to $70,000 of commitment for this Kollel. This Kollel is a machnes ve'in moitzi begashmias. There is zero income coming in. And to have partners like Dudi, Reb Baruch, and Yehuda is a blessing. It's a bracha. And I want to give you a bracha. The Eibishter should help, that you should have kiflaim l'teishia, and whatever you give to the Kollel should come back. Brachas ad blidai beboni chaim azenu revicha. I want to thank also. Dudi says he's not a Lubavitcher, but I think in another gilgul he really is a Chabadsker. His heart and his mind and his vision is mamish aligned with the Rebbe's vision. And you know, we're close. I speak to him time to time. Every time that I feel like, should I do it? Should I not do it? I'm a little bit feeling a little bit like maybe it's too much. I call him up and he says, go, 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 do. Rafton. And that's, of course, my good friend Chesky Kaftal from Borough Park, who Chesky, I promise you, his phone does not stop ringing. Not people, shluchim, people from all walks of life have his number, know who he is. He's a celebrity. He's a figure in the Fruma world, in the non-Fruma world. And he teaches me not only to give, but how to give. Give with a smile. Thank the Eibishter. And he doesn't let me stop. I called him up. I said, you know, Rabbi Shuchat, he keeps sending me names. He wants me to take on more and more. I can't. It's not my only tzedakah. It's not my only pulas that I'm doing. He says, Shlomi, go. I said, Chesky, and what's your ishtatfus? He says, put me down at least for 2 Yungalite. So I want to thank Chesky and give you tremendous brachas, personal brachas in your business. I want to thank as well somebody who's behind the scenes, but he pushes me. We learn every day together. We learn Gemara together every day. And he pushes, and he's very behind the scenes in the Kollel. And that's, of course, my Chaver, Yedidi, Mendel Perlstein. Thank you very much for pushing the Kollel and doing what you do. I want to thank, and he is really the backbone behind in order to support all these great causes that we do, he's always pushing, doesn't want any recognition, but it's chayvus to mention, and his father's here tonight, that's my partner and my yedid, and it's a big schus to have him always on our side, and always looking the best of the kollel, always there, has advice, ideas what to do. With Levi Edelkop, who came special from Florida tonight just to be here, and his father, Yutke. I want to thank him, and I want to thank Sterny and the family for always being there and supporting all these great causes. I want to thank, as we know, there's three stooges in what we do. There's myself, Beryl Unick, and Zalmi Cohen. They're here tonight. And Beryl, always there, pushing, supportive, with ideas, quietly, without any fanfare. But I want to thank Beryl, who tells me the way it is. If there's a problem with the kollel and he hears, he'll call me up, Shlomi, you have to do it this way. No, you're wrong. But you know what? I appreciate it because Beryl really cares very much. I want to thank him, and I want to thank the Sperlin family for really being behind this kollel in a real way. Shekayach Gadol. I want to thank my brothers-in-law who, behind the scenes as well, each do what they do. Zevi, who's in Florida tonight, always there helping with ideas, writing, whatever the kollel needs. We just made this fundraiser. I'm sure everyone saw. Let's give a round of applause for all the donors that helped this fundraising. Close to $800,000. By tonight, we'll be out. All the Balabatim, please stay. We're not leaving until we have $800,000. But in Mitzvah Hashem, we will get to the goal. I want to thank all the donors and, of course, all the Balabatim here tonight who made this campaign possible. Yeshakayach Godol. I want to thank as well, he's sitting here tonight. I want to thank Levi Sudak for the website and always helping whatever the kollel needs on a technical standpoint. I want to thank as well two individuals who, anytime the kollel needs something written up, I deal with a lot of, I know all the sites out there, and everybody has an agenda with money, everybody wants something. And when I reach out to Mrs. Sofer and I say, Mrs. Sofer, can you make an article about the kollel? Sure, no problem. I said, could you send me a bill? What bill? This is the biggest chus to help such a kollel. I love what you guys are doing. So thank you, Mrs. Sofer, Mika Sofer. Thank you, Yossi Sofer is here tonight, always helping and supporting the kollel. I want to thank as well Mendel Sufrin, who's always there making sure that the kollel is clean, making sure that the kollel, many times, somebody yesterday sent a message. He says, he was very upset. The kollel, they came, there was cups, there was trash out, and he says, this is the Seisnishkin Yisachar Zavulin. So Mendel's always there to pick up, he's like a massive Kolel Machnes, he's always there to make sure the kollel's clean, so thank you very much. Thank you, Shmuley Brashevitsky, as well. I want to thank, if I missed anyone out, but please don't take this personal. I want to thank each and every one of you. I want to thank my good friend Levi Shanowitz as well, who's a shut of Levi and Dina, who not only has a brother in the kollel, who's my brother-in-law, but also stands behind the kollel and supports the kollel. And of course, I'll tell you a little secret. I don't know if he wants me to say this. He's a friend of mine from childhood. We grew up together in a place called Long Beach, California. The first gig that Eli Marcus ever got, ask him, was my bar mitzvah. And Eli, not only, without saying a word, Eli says, Shlomi, I love this idea. I'm in. I'm going to take some part of a shutfis. So Eli, not only are you here tonight singing and being Mahana the Olam, but you're a real shutf over here. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for taking part of this kollel. I want to thank, let me just mention them very, very quickly. I'm sorry for taking everybody's time. I mentioned Levi Edelkop, Zevi Edelkop, Shalom Inkwitz, Israel Rappaport, Chesky, Bettel, Shmuel Stern, Sam Stern, Mendel Mangel, Ari Minkwitz, Naftali Minkwitz, Shabdudi Farkash, Peretz Chain, Shuli Rishler, Jerry, Shol Dahan, Eli Posner, Ara Lepinson, Levi Shanowitz, Yudi Hersenberg, who was here tonight, Yudi from Florida, who came in, who made with his wife, who just had a baby, came in special. Yudi is a good friend of the family, who's here tonight. Thank you very much. I want to thank Yankee Markowitz from SBA Loan Group. If you ever need a loan on a building or a business loan, reach out to them. Great guys, Mendy and Yankee, and also big supporters of the kollel. I want to thank my brother, Ari Greenwald, for supporting. I want to thank my sister and brother-in-law Chaya and Sruli Krinsky. I want to thank Menachem Gorevich. I didn't see him here. He told me he's coming, but I want to thank him and Levi for supporting the Kollel, Menachem Levi. I want to thank a new friend of mine who I got to know in Pomona. It's really rocking and rolling over there. Yossi Lowenbein, thank you. Came special from Pomona tonight to be here. And Achron Chaviv, I want to thank Zalmi Cohen for all what you do. I want to thank, just a few more names. I want to thank Shui Shiner, Mendy Wilhelm, Suli Bernstein, Benjamin Levin, my father-in-law, David Kugel, Rachmil Jacobson, Avi Alou, Mendel Pinson, and all the donors. If I left you out, I apologize. But I want to thank all the donors for participating and making this kollel happening. And it's my wish and my dream that this kollel should continue to be successful. And the Rabbeim should have the strength to continue to do what they do. The Avrechim should be Makablim. Everyone should come and be excited to come to learn every day, to be excited to, like Rabbi Jacobson said, to be Neres Lahoyer, and we should be Zeicha, the coming of Mashiach, Makinu Beresham, Omen Ken Yehidatzen. Everyone, Kulam Ahuvim, Kulam Berudim, Kulam Gibaydim, Kulam Kedoshim. We sat with Hala, and this is not Chas v'Shalom being memayet anybody, but we would like to give out a few, I would like to give out a few awards of people that I feel and the Hanhala felt made a real difference in the kollel. And I'm going to ask you to come up quickly. I guess we'll take a quick picture, and then after the ceremony, we'll take a picture all together. So I'm going to come around just to make it easier. And, okay. Thank you again.
Thank you, Shlomi. Rabbi Shuchat, אתה הולך מקדימה? אתה הולך לחבר? Shlomi, Rabbi Shuchat is going with you. First of all,
Okay, I want to first present I want to call up, and I'm going to, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's long. Whatever it's written here, it's a lot more, but I want to call up, and this is a personal hukra, harocha, to Harav Shalom Dei Ber Shuchat for everything that he does for the kollel. It's a little sign, a token of appreciation. Just come up, please. Rabbi Shuchat. The next award I would like to give to Rabbi Shraga David Hamnik. Please come up. I'd like to ask the Mashpia of the kollel, Rabbi Simon Jacobson, to come up and accept the award. And last but not least, so scared to drop these. Rabbi Lapkovsky, where are you? Eli Lapkovsky, shkoyach for everything. Okay, just very quickly, when I call your name up, please just come up because we got to get off. We got to continue with the program. we had a meeting, and I asked Rabbi Shuchat to please, I'm not there during the day, but just Rabbi Shuchat, Rabbi Hamne, give me, Rabbi Lapkovsky, Rabbi Jacobson, give me, please, 3-4 Jungalite that you feel really when they were there, they're in Stein, and they're learning, and they kept Seder, they were there learning Basmada, but this really is an Asmada award for being there and taking the time seriously, diligently. I want to call up first my Taita Shvager, Shmuel Shanowitz. Hold. You want to come up? Okay, come. Yeah, come. Okay. The next younger man I want to call up, who's really, really exceeded and who's becoming a, mark my word, he's going to be a world name of Pasking Shilas, wherever he is. That's, of course, Chaim Hertz. Please come up. I'll give you the word. I want to call up Rabbi Yosef Spiro. Yosef Spiro. Pinchas Spiro. I want to call up. I used to come early in the early days. I used to come during the breaks, and literally there was the same younger man sitting there, and it was very, very impressive. Never came a minute early and never comes a minute late. It's really, really impressive, and I want to give you a big shekayah. Let's Usher Shol Wilhelm, please come up and accept this award. Chaim Shol Shkedi. Mendel Rabashkin, thank you for everything you do for the Kollel. Menachem Mendel Chanowitz. Is here? Is Mendel here? Okay, we'll save this for him.
Yeshakoyach. Round of applause for all the ones who got awards. Akora Satoiv Shloimi, thank you for the Akora Satoiv. I can only say that the measurement of strength is when someone knows how to say thank you. And you for sure know how to say thank you. Shloimi, thank you. Especially coming from Shabbos Pashas Kisavoy. It gives me honor and privilege to call upon the Sgan Rosh Kollel, a young man that I got to know b'schus the Kollel, and as Shloimi said with Edelkeit, Arav Reb Shrage Amnik, as mir sagt, Shrage betiere mei Anne, be'emes ha'neir lehoyer, quiet like a candle, but gives a lot of light. And I see also when I give recognition that his father is here, his Shver was here, Asher Yoladatoy. Please come up.
Shekayach Gadol to the MC guiding us with expertise, Abdudi Farkash, Chashav Taimach of the Kollel, and of course, Shekayach to everyone who came out tonight, my parents, my father, my Shver, all the Jungalite, all the Taimchei Kollel, etc. Of course, a special thank you to the Manal of Shlomo Greenwald and the Reish Kollel of Shalom Bar Shuchat for their great work that they do around the clock. And it's not just around the clock one day here, it's a whole year already, around the clock, around the year. And of course, Yasher Koyach to Rabbi Greenwald and to all the other Shutfim and Toimchim for all the support and for the beautiful event that we have tonight in honor of the Kollel. Of course, as anyone who saw the fundraiser knows, the theme of the Kollel is Yisachar Zvulun. And maybe this is a concept which not everyone is so entirely familiar with in our Kehillah, at least not in this particular framework. So just to touch briefly on this inyan and halacha, there's a sefer Eish Das by Reb Chaim Alfandri from the early 1600s. It was printed a few decades ago. So in Parshas Vayelech, which is this time of year, he quotes a tshuva ksav yad of the Maharit, Rabbi Yosef Mitrani, also from the same period. And the tshuva goes like this: Oisei shekana mechaveroi chelkoi belivyason bekuf zuhuvim. Someone purchased from his friend, he got a good deal. His chelik of the Livyason when Mashiach comes for 100 gold coins. Now, maybe we've heard of stories like this from the stories, but here you mamish see a Ma'aseh Shahaya, a Shaila, a Tshuva. So what's the story? Does this work? So Marit wrote, Hakoina al yismach, the purchaser shouldn't be overjoyed. But Hamoicher yisabel, and the seller should also be in mourning, because the seller is turning Olam Haba into a joke. You're selling eternal life for a few coins. And anyway, this achila is not gashmistic achila, this is schar. Of course, that's a discussion in its own right. And the moment he sold it, so Hitaka lost it. It shows how much he is machshav it. Then he adds, he says, he thinks that the person who purchased it should at least get some credit, because the fact that he was willing to lay out 100 gold coins shows that he has a certain chavivos for Olam Haba. And Eina Kadosh Baruch Hu mekapeach schar shum beria. But the person who made the sale, he deserves a big punishment. It's like Esav, who sold the Bechayra. And there, at least, it was hard to tell, because Esav was hungry in the beginning. But here, from beginning to end, this is terrible. Okay, so we have this example that you try to sell your ruchnistic portion, your schos, turns out it's completely not legitimate. A few hundred years later, Shlomo Kluger, in the first half of the 1800s, in Shailas Tshuvas Tuv Tam Badas, he writes about a similar shaila. He says, writes to Satanov, that there was a person who sold a quarter of his chelek and Olam Haba to someone else. And they wrote a shtar. And he got the money, and now the meicher suddenly had seller's remorse. He realized he didn't want to sell a quarter of his chelek and Olam Haba. So he wants to give the money back, and the Koyach is saying, no, a deal's a deal. I want what I got. So what's the shaila? What's the din? So Shlomo Kluger answers that this is schoik yischak loy hamoicher lelekeach. Interesting to compare the reactions. The first tshuva is saying the moicher is terrible. Shlomo Kluger's reaction is, a joke on the koina. You know, what a deal. Maybe it depends on where they live. Maybe in Galicia, if you can loop someone into a deal like this, so the joke's on him. So he says this is no sale at all. Olam Haba is not bar mechira. It's a mefurish gemara in Saita, Hill and Shavna. Pashtus, we're talking about Hill Hazakin. Hill had a lesser known brother, Shavna. Hill went into Torah, Shavna went into business, and then Shavna reconnected and said, maybe we can actually split everything with Mafreya. And Abasko came out and said, absolutely not. And of course, Hill agreed. If Hill hadn't agreed, why do you need a Basko B'chlal? Clearly, Hill was willing to go ahead with the deal. And yet, the Basko said, not for sale. Okay, so then where do we even get the idea that you could share something? How does that even work? So the Gemara there also mentions Shimon Achi Azariah. There was Kaidem Amaisa. They agreed beforehand. So then it's not a mechira. You can't. Nothing is for sale. But since you were involved, you were part all along. So now it's like you also did it the entire time. But once it's done, there's nothing to sell. And then he gets in a bit into the bialos. Do you have a bialos on your own schar and Olam Haba, or is it a chesed of the Eibishter? And he gets into a whole discussion like that. And of course, there are many other svarim. I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg here. But we see it's not so simple that you can just share and sell your chelek. We have to understand when yes and when not. And even if we have some kind of deal that works, does that mean that literally half the schar, half the schus is being taken off from the Yisachar and going to the Zvulun? Is that a worthwhile deal for the Yisachar? Why would the Yisachar want to go into that? So we find the Chidah and Reish David, Parshas Kedoshim. He says, what if you have a Gever Chacham who can't support himself, and that's why he has a Yisachar Zvulun partnership? So there's his half. The assumption is it's his half, and there's the other half. Now, we're forgetting someone important. Who else is a very important figure in this picture? What about the wife? It says in Chazal, in Soita, same sugya, that Ravina says that because the women do their part, so they also get a half. So Ebazoi, how's this break down? If the wife gets half and the Gvir gets half, so the Talmud Chacham is left with nothing. How does that work? He's the one doing all the Torah. How could that be? He's left out? So what are you going to say? Maybe the husband gets half and the wife got half, and now the husband split his half with the Gvir, so the Gvir gets a quarter and the husband gets a quarter and the wife gets a half? Or maybe the other way around. Maybe the Gvir gets half and the Chacham gets a quarter and the wife gets a quarter, or do we split it in three? So then he quotes from a different Rav from previous Dar that says that the Chatzi of the Eishes Chaver, Einoi Nigra Mechelkai, nothing gets taken off, because that's how the Eibishter does it. B'chastoi, he gives the half without taking off. Masha'enkin the Asher. So here you see this idea. It's possible to say that it just duplicates. You're not actually giving anything away. He says the usher not, but in other places already, other Svarim explain that the same principle works for the usher as well. And the lashon you find is that it's like an avuka, like a torch. You can take as many candles as you want out of the torch. And this is actually mentioned by the Rebbe. The Rebbe mentions it in a different context in the Kuntras, Dvar Chalukas Hashas, Yutas Kislev, Tavshin and Beis. The Rebbe says when you have a Chalukas Hashas, so everyone is being Messiah the Shas, and everyone, that means that everyone's getting whatever you learned is also being shared with everyone else. But for that, the Rebbe says, you're not losing out. You got a mile of being Mezaka the Rabbim, and maybe it's Talmud Torah the Rabbim. And the Rebbe himself did speak about the Indian of Yisachar and Zvulun, especially in the last few years, in Shabbos Achrei, Tavshim Mem Tes, and Sefer HaSuchos. The Rebbe says, when it says in Pirkei Avos, V'hamidu Talmidim Harbe, it's not just the Yisachar that are Rabbanim, that have Talmidim. It's also the Zvulun, the Balei Esek, who are supporting, who are enabling, who are making it possible. And the Rebbe says that when a Balei Esek, a Zvulun, supports these Peulas, so it's like he also has a part of the Hamidot Tamidim Harbe. And then the Rebbe quotes this din in Shulchan Aruch, Mishi Ef Shalei Luma, Yaspik La'achedim, Halamdim, etc. The Rebbe brings the whole halacha. And this is Adarabah. In certain ways, the chelik of the Zvulun, in certain ways, is greater than the chelik of the Yisachar, because Kama Gedoyla Ma'aseh Chia, Chia was spending time enabling people to learn, and he gets extra credit. Of course, it doesn't mean that we're saying that the Yisachars should slack off. The Yisachars have to do their job, and the Zvulans have to do their job. Like Chia himself, he was also Be'ikr learning. The Ikr Heirah, the Rebbe says, is Yisachar darf sich vernehmen mit Lernen Torah, und V'amidu Talmidim Harbe kipshutai, und Zvulun darf sich vernehmen mit Shtitzen, supporting the Torah. And there are many other places where the Rebbe discusses the Mile of Yisachar, the Mile of Zvulun. So that's why we've all gathered all here tonight to salute, to celebrate both the Yisachars and the Zvuluns equally, everyone for their part, for their contribution. And now, based on what the Chidah said, so now we can't neglect, we can't forget the third partner. There's also the wives. Befrat, in the Deira, since the Gemara, it's not just that the wife helps with the children, but the wife also often supports the husband, enables the husband to learn as well. So Maskana, we have three Shutfim, the Lamdim, the supporters, and the wives, and everyone is getting the same schar, the same schus equally. So tonight, let's take a moment to give a round of applause for the Lamdim, the Yisachars, the Zvulans, and of course the Eishes Chaver, each and every one. In conclusion, Baruch Hashem, with the support of all the supporters, we've been matzliach to get such a chashuv kollel going. This is not just a kollel stam for learning. This is a Kolel L'Horaa Maasis, with an emphasis on learning halacha l'maisa, and we're raising rabbanim, shluchim, leaders. So again, once again, let's salute the Menal and the Reisha Kollel who spend day and night on making the Kollel a success. And Ayasher Koyach.
I want to give a special Yasher Koyach to Rabbi Hamdik for his kind words. But I want to say something before. My dear friend Shloimi mentioned his Rebbetzin, who is always there, allowing him to do what he does. I want to give a special Akoras Atoiv to the wives of the Kollel, who are soon turning out to be the leaders of the rabbinical world. As Rabbi Akiva said in his words, Sheli v'shelochem shelohi. The thank you belongs to the Rebbetzins, the wives of all of you Kollel and all of the supporters. So thank you, thank you. I want to give a very, very special thank you to a dear friend of mine. Shloimi has mentioned to me as soon as he got off the stage that he forgot to mention, because the list that is the reason for tonight's success. Arav Shneor Najar. Shneor, im ata po, kol hakavod. Thank you for making the night a success. And also, I want to say thank you to one of the reasons I started learning 3 Prokim Rambam L'Yoim, the chavrusa of my dear friend Shloimi Greenwald, Chaim Leiter, who learns, yeah, this is your chavrusa, your Rambam chavrusa, right? That's why you got me excited about learning Rambam. Thank you for ruining my flights that I had my... By the way, if you learn Rambam while you're on the plane, you fall asleep very quick. Anyway, there was supposed to be a video clip, but we're running out of time. You guys saw the video, unless you want to... Later, afterwards, okay. I would like to call up, as I said before, Ashri Yoladetoi, the Ravia Ben, the father of the Rosh Kollel, who is a shliach of the Rebbe, Rosh Yeshiva Gdeila in Caracas, Venezuela. Used to be a chavrus of Rabbi Jacobson Legirson many years ago. Yes? Arav Shuchat's father, Bechavod. Arav Reb Leibel Shochat. Arisha Bachabura. Leibel Zarieh, כן? אתה יודע.
Poiskim bracha, that Rebbe begins. You got HaKodesh. The Gemara bracha said, the end of the Gemara bracha, the Gemara says 2 options. Poiskim l'chodesh Achsanya and Poiskim l'chodesh Shel Torah. In this case, it's one the same. The Achsanya is the Chodesh Shel Torah, as the signs say all over the place. So, first of all, to begin with the bracha to the Achsanya, the Kollel Shel Torah, that they should go Mechayil L'Choyil, this special Avodas HaKodesh. And for me, it's a great pleasure to take part in this event. Besides, as you mentioned, I'm the father, besides the personal simcha, for me to take part in this event, which is in honor of the successful year of the Kollel and the continuation of the Kollel. So besides the personal simcha, it's a great simcha in itself. To be part of such an event, it's actually, we can say, a revolutionary idea in this kehillah, to open up such a kollel. It's actually a continuation, probably, of many years, which I already heard of Shlomo Greenwald, as you mentioned, he's a chalusa, my son Shmulik. many years before, when he was having, he was involved in, besides all the other things he's involved in, he's also involved in spreading Torah here in the community. He used to have shiurim on Sundays. My son mentioned many times that he was invited to give a shiur when he used to come in from Montreal. So I already heard of his pulis for the sake of Torah, besides all the other pulis. And we see a growth of Torah in our community, shiurim and the signs all over the place. Shuri Torah, which is in all the shuls, and the many askonim, Baruch Hashem, many askonim who are one learns from the other. It started many years ago with Yalgut Torah, Yugun Torah, and here we have this Kollel. Just the idea I mentioned before, the great publicity that this Kollel made as well. It's not just a Kollel sitting and learning. A small Besmedish in Crown Heights, but it's going out public to the Shurim in the Kollel. The idea of bringing out Torah to the masses in public is something quite new here in Crown Heights. In Lubavitch, Pnimis, Mount Pnimis, there was always shurim cried, but in a quiet manner. No one made a big deal about the shurim. But the last years is maybe more, already 10 years, but the last years even more. All the shurim are going out public with pictures and publicity, which is it's quite positive. Although the Gemara is a discussion about, you mentioned before Avchia, Kolel L'Horaa Maasis, Kolel Banquet, the Bashkocha Pratis. Lately I learned the Moed Cotton. Rabbi Yehuda Nossi said not to learn, not to go, not to give shiur, not to bring Torah out into the street, not to teach Torah out in the street, in the market, in the plaza, let's say. But Rabbi Chia, although he was a Talmud of Yehuda Nossi, but he did, the Gemara says in Moed Cotton, he took two of his nephews, and he went out in the shuk and he taught them Torah. And Rabbi Yehuda Nossi had a kaveda, so Rabbi Chia took upon himself nizifus, some type of chayrim for 30 days. And then he came to Rabbi Yehuda Nossi. Rabbi Yehuda Nossi said, why did you do so? Didn't I say we shouldn't take a Torah in the streets? It's a pasuk. Chamuki reichech, ma yerech v'seiseg. And that pasuk refers to Torah. As all Shir Hashirim speaks in Marshall. But from the Hemshech HaPasuk, it speaks about Torah. And ma yerech v'seiser, avdi v'torah v'seiser. So Rabbi Chia says, but I have another pasuk. Chachma Tarina Bachutz. So the whole discussion so Rabbi Yehuda says you learned the pasuk incorrectly. Chachma Tarina Bachutz is Kol ha'isuk v'torah v'seiser. Then the name goes out. When one learns Torah v'seiser, which is also brought in Tanya lately, a few weeks ago in the Yata Kodesh, the beginning of that Maimon Chazal. So Torah has an effect b'chutz, Torah b'chutz, but doesn't mean that you take the Torah out in the street. Because there's a way of learning Torah b'fnim, and the Torah has an effect. And the Ruchnis Negoif and Torah has ashpah in the chutz. But not to take out Torah in the chutz. But Rabbi Chia Rav Chia didn't accept it. Rav Chia says that the pasuk Chamuk Yerech is referring to Gemilas Chasadim. It's okay, that's what you say, sir. A couple there was a trickle because when Rav Chia and Rav Yehuda Nossi. But by straight Rav Chia continued his ways, and maybe even Rav Yehuda Nossi eventually accepted. Because we do find in the Gemara in Bab Metzia where someone mentioned before Kama Gdoila Ma'asechia, Rabbi Yehuda Nossi himself he said Kama Gdoila Ma'asechia. Rabbi Chia set up a whole system besides Ma'asechia. He set up a whole system how to teach Torah to up to 6 people who should say the Mishnah, the whole Gemara. And right before that, the Gemara says the basketball came out by Shlokish. Because when Shlokish had a Chalish Sadas, he couldn't find the Tziyun of Rav Chia. So he said, he had a Chalish Sadas, he said, I was also involved in Torah like Rav Chia. So a basketball came out and said, correct you involved in Torah, but Rav Chia was, you weren't Marbit Torah, like Rav Chia. And then the Gemara continues the whole story of Rav Chia. There's Mefalpul in Torah, and then there's being Marbit Torah. The Gemara brings the discussion between two Amiroi and Rav Chanina and said, if the Torah would be forgotten, I would be restored through people. And Rav Chia says, I make sure the Chatchila shouldn't be forgotten. So Rav Chia's example of one who's Marbis Torah and takes it out in the street. The Gemara later also in my cotton says, when there's a question where to bury Rav Huna, so the Gemara says over there, Rav Huna leave his Torah and Rav Chia leave his Torah. So we should bury him next to Rav Chia. A couple when Rav Chia saw that Torah will be forgotten, the Gemara says in Sukkot, just finished in Davayim, the Gemara said in the end of Perek Sukkot, that Shloki says about Rav Chia, that Rav Chia saw that Torah would be forgotten, he bought Rav Chia and he made sure that Torah shouldn't be forgotten. In other words, when it's both true. There's learning Torah b'seisa, there's learning Torah b'rabim. And the Perek in the Gas HaKodesh, we talked about, when he mentions this Ma'im Chazal, Kodesh Torah b'seisa, he says there that you need both in Yonim. There's Gvura, there's Chesed. You need both in Yonim. But now is the time when you need to take Torah out in the streets. When everything else is b'seisa, so maybe it's enough to Torah should be b'seisa, and it'll have an effect. But Davinei know other things are not b'seisa, and when other things are not b'seisa in the streets, it's Chodesh Shalom, we don't have to speak but then we have to take Torah out in the streets to combat the negative influences, which everything is out in the open. If everything's out in the open, then maybe the Charem is my Yerech b'seisa, I've Divrei Torah b'seisa. But if Yerech is not b'seisa, then Divrei Torah can't be b'seisa. Now the time that we have to take Torah out in the streets. As well as Stoker, Gemilas Chasadim, the Rebbe will always mention Mefarsman, the Tshuvas HaRashba, Mefarsman, Isa Mitzvah. When everything else is out in the open, then Torah has to be taken out in the open. Now it's not a time to be Nechbel HaKelim, and Panimis is an Indian, but the time months to take out Torah from Seisa. Take out Torah from Seisa into the Gilui. This is a Kolel which is being Marvis Torah, and especially in the area of Halacha, as mentioned before, it's It's very necessary as well. Maybe in earlier times, the Rebbe made sure that everyone should take smicha before they get married, which also wasn't earlier years. Early years, the Rebbeim was, it says on the meaning of the Beis Harav. Beis Harav would take smicha before they got married. But not necessarily for everyone. Sometimes the Rebbeim would tell particular people to take smicha to become Rabbanim. The Rebbe initiated that everyone to take smicha before they get married. So the Rebbe saw the necessity. And the Gabi Dayonis in other areas in Halacha, also the Rebbe would encourage particular people, not necessarily everyone. Particular people to take Dayonis, to Israel, to become Rabbanim in cities, Dayonim. But the time months that you need much more Rabbanim as well in the areas of Dayonis. The Baruch Hashem is growing, and many communities are growing all over. I happen to be stuck in America because of the corona and, for like 40 months. I finally went back a few months ago, and I was around. And many communities are opening. Many communities are opening in all kinds of cities, all kinds of states, and it's very important to have a Yungulite. And I'm sure many Yungulites are here or learning the Kollel. Even don't become Rabbanim, like I mentioned before. They might be moving out in different communities. It's important that to have Yungulite that have a particular idea and halacha, and where there is Yungulite that have what to say by Fabrengen, it makes a difference in the communities. There's no thought that many of the communities are a bit more modern, a bit more different influences, and it's very important that there are Yungulite that have an idea, halacha and chassidus, and to be mashpia in those kilos. Whether they'll become official rabbanim, they won't become official rabbanim. The fact that they are there will give a positive influence for those communities which are going up all over America and growing by the masses. And it's important to have these Yungulite who will become part. Many of them will probably become part of those communities. They should be the ones that will be mashpia through their being a dugma chaya. Because one learned halacha, he has to be as well a dugma chaya. It should come automatic. And if he's learning halacha, in order to have a tzach on halacha, it has to be Hashem Imoy. One has to learn Torah properly. One has to learn Torah knowing that there's a noise in the Torah. Has to learn chassidus. The Kollel has also someone who's giving shur in chassidus. I mentioned before, a good friend of mine who's giving shur in chassidus. And chassidus, no one better than him to give shur in chassidus. And chassidus gives the Hashem Imoy. Recognition of the noise in the Torah, and Hashem Imoy, then he could have a tzlacha as well in halacha, and he could also be a dugma chaya for others. I'll call upon him, the Hebrews to help him, that the Rosh Kollel, the Naga Kollel, all the supporters, all those present, and the Yungulite, should go mechayil v'chayil, and learning Torah and Kiyum mitzvahs and Darkei Chassidus. The Toimchim should also go mechayil v'chayil, and their geschäften, their businesses, they should be able to give tzedakah, kefil keflayim. Es soll alle Wege sein. We said Dvar Hashem zu halacha, Dvar Hashem is also zu haket. The same Gemara says in Gemara Shabbos, Dvar Hashem zu haket. They have to help in that alle Wege sein, Tzich Tzich Teva, Shnas Gula, bis Gals werden Mashiach zu kennen und hele Wein kol Mensch.
Shkoyach, Rabbi Suchat. Shkoyach. Shkoyach. I would like to call upon, I know we're running a little bit late, but this is, I've been waiting to make this introduction the whole night. I want to tell you very shortly how I got to know Chesky Koftail, Rabbi Chesky Koftail. I was behind the scenes in the old days. He was the pioneer. Today everybody makes fancy supermarkets. But in the good old days, before Pomegranate, before all the famous supermarkets, I was involved behind the scenes in a initiative. We were saving Dan. Henry was the front. Chesky was the front of saving what is called Gourmet Glat. Remember that? And you saw, I fell in love right away because, as you can see, I don't eat a lot, but I understand what quality is, what a supermarket business is supposed to be like. In Bechlal, in jede Sache, in Yiddishkeit, a Geschmack that everything should be the best of the best. And there's many more. I'm not going to talk about too much about Chesky right now, but he's here. He has to run as mother needs a refuah, yeah? Give a refuah shleimer, shazan eksiva chasimotei bochel and sashon azois. I would like to call upon Rabbi Chesky Koftail, and afterwards we have like a very important presentation that we want to make a quick one. Chesky, when you finish talking, I want to make the presentation with you. So please come up.
Good evening, everybody. As it was mentioned, I actually came here directly from the hospital. My mother just went in, so my mom did not even have a chance to prepare. I'd like to give this talk, this Chisar for Shlema for Imi Marusi, Miral Basur Rivka. If you have, so I took umbrage before when they mentioned that I'm Borough Parker and not a Lubavitcher, but I think we tried to fix that a bit. I am originally from Borough Park, actually born in a Satmar family, but I believe I do have some credentials, having written several books on Lubavitch, some that you may know. And if anybody wants to read more about it, I think COL has a little story about that. How I met with the Rebbe and ended up, actually how I met Lubavitch in Hong Kong, not in Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn, Borough Park, never came to Crown Heights, but I met Lubavitch in Hong Kong and then ended up doing a couple of books and a lot of advertising, a lot of things with Lubavitch. But what am I doing here tonight? So I'm here tonight, Lekavod, as we were talking about before, Pasuk Mechved Achsanya. To me, Achsanya is a very chashuv chaver, a good friend, partner of Shlomo Greenwald, who invited me to come in here to say a few words, but mainly invited me to join him in this incredible kollel that he was putting together. And so when I say a good friend, what do I mean by that? What did I see in Nara Isa? So it says in the Perek says Novus, like the difference between Zara Shel Avram Avinu and Bilam, one of the key things that they point out is Ayin Toiv. So what's Ayin Toiv mean? There's a very curious Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Samach Beis, where the Gemara brings down the pasuk that Yisro says, Baruch Hashem asher hitzel es Yisrael miad Mitzrayim. And the Gemara says over there that was the first place in the Torah where someone gave Shevach V'Edah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Somebody thanked HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's really interesting. There are many places in the Torah where people gave Shevach V'Edah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have Leah, and we said, as Yoshua says, that the first place. The Radomsk has that. The Tfer Shleim asks that. So was this the first time that they said, thank you Hashem? Which is a big movement today. So the Radomsk says that what was interesting about Yisro's Shevach V'Edah is the first time that somebody gave Shevach V'Edah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for a chesed that he did with somebody else. Not for a chesed that was done with him. He thanked HaKadosh Baruch Hu for somebody else. It means having an ayin toiv, having ayin for somebody else, looking out and caring and being interested in helping and doing things for, for the Lizalosa, for somebody else. And that's something that I found very much so with Reb Shloimeh and all the pools that he's been doing. And actually in last week's Parsha, the Ariya Kodesh says, so the Ariya Kodesh says, you didn't do your avodah more than your koil, more than your other things, more than your ashiris or your parnasa. And the Sfas Emes says an incredible lashon, which I think is very applicable here. So he says, the feed of now, how could you stay in the madregas ha'oisher? Im ha'cheshek v'rotzen yoiser b'avodas Hashem esbach mikol ha'rov tov sheyesh lo. So if you have a businessman, that's a successful businessman, Baruch Hashem, quite successful businessman, but when you're talking to him, his cheshek and his excitement and his pool is more yoiser b'avodas Hashem esbach mikol kol memela miskayim gam ha'rov kol. That's when the Rav Kol could also stay. And that's something that I found very much with Shloimeh, and I'm very pleased and thankful to Baruch Hu for introducing us. And that's what he says over here is actually the concept of Torah Gdila b'makam echad. That's what Torah Gdila b'makam echad is, to be able to have Torah Gdila in one place. So as I was driving over here, and as I said, I didn't really have so much of a chance to go home and to prepare. So I asked him, what am I supposed to talk about? He said, well, you're a businessman and you try to do some things. So what do you stand for? What are you living for? So it was interesting, Rosh Kollel mentioned before that Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu Lisa Dir B'Tachtoinim. So we talked about the various kind of B'Tei Mikdash and B'Tei Mikdash, and then of course the Kollel. But I think it goes a lot more deeper than that, right? Vasli Mikdash V'Shechanti B'Soicham. As a become, of course, the Al-Shach HaKadosh doesn't say V'shechanti b'soich choy, it says V'shechanti b'soich chom, b'soich kol echad v'echad. That really the Beis HaMikdash is in us. That everybody, every single Yid is neshama, ze'echel k'l'kayim emal, v'ipach ba'apab nishma from Yochayim, man de nafach and delay nafach, that we carry in ourselves a neshama. So I suffer from a condition called existential angst. It's a condition that, like, every day you wake up and say, what am I doing here? Am I here to, just open business? Am I here to, when I come to Shemaim, you mentioned some business we do, gourmet glass. I said, 120, when I come to Shemaim, what's going to be the thing? They can say, oh, this is Cheski Kafta, owns gourmet glass. Like, whoopie-doo. That's what I'm here. That's what Lekach Nevresa. So, because of that, I've been struggling for a very long time and working with Siyata D'Shmaya as much as I can to see how it can blend the work that I do. I'm not cut out to sit in kollel. I'm jealous of you guys. Baruch Hashem, we have many kollelim ourselves, but I'm jealous of the kolleling lad that could actually sit in a Torah v'avodah. But there's actually, I think it's like Rigas HaBoisim, it says that there are three ways a person can serve a Kodesh Baruch Hu. One is the Torah, they're actually sitting and learning Torah every day. One is Avodah, people that sit and daven and say Tillim and do. And one is B'mas HaMatan, that some people, you're right, Yesh HaVadosam B'mas HaMatan, that's the Avodah. So one of the things that I try to guide a lot of the people, young people that I deal with, is that, when you're in business, you're not just a donor. Zvulun wasn't a donor, we were talking about before. Zvulun wasn't someone that gave money to a koil and got a plaque. Zvulun was a shavit. That's what he was. He was a heilige shavit from Klal Yisrael, and his avodah was b'mas hamatan. So the avodah that I have this chus to talk about with Reb Shloimeh, which is a real beautiful blend of Torah and avodah and business. Investments, but mitzvahs, tzollah, and kollel, and other kinds of really interesting programs. So it gives me really big chizik. And I think it crosses all boundaries. It has nothing to do with Lubavitch or Borough Park. It really is something that is inspiring, especially when you see it in a younger man. I look at this koil and I think, wow, they're putting out dayonim, they're putting out the next generation of leaders that are going to be giving, our children, guidelines, and basically, as we talked before, the inside, the halacha, which is essentially the underpinnings of Klal Yisrael, and the halachas, which I believe the Zohar Kodesh says that they're tayag itin, right, only to one mitzvah, to avoid tidbak, of really trying to bring all these halachas that do all these mitzvahs just to be able to get connected and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So my bracha to you is that as the koil, first of all, that you shall be zoicha to really grasp the depth of halacha, but also in a way that can be translated. You're all probably going to go to shlichus. They'll be translated into helping Yidden, not only in the brass tacks of halacha, but also with the panemius of the halacha, of what's actually happening here. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu is asking us to do this mitzvah, what is the underlying thing of that? And that, of course, the Tamchim and of course Shloime should be zoicha to be able to continue doing mitzvahs and masim tovim, mitach nachas, achav sadas, mitach shefa, bracha and atzlacha, and met Shem ksiv tovim to everybody here. It's a mamash an honor to be involved and to be able to be a sponsor, to be able to be a shutuf. And when we talk, by the way, in my kollel, it's never that we are the donors. It's really, we're not the supporters. I tell my kollel a lot, you're the supporters. I'm the one that's out there in the Wild West doing business. My anchor is I'm supported by the kollel a lot that are sitting there. To the point where even when I say I have a soil and I say, I'm actually thinking my kollel a lot. I don't sit and learn all day. I learn my balabatisha hour or hour and a half of Daf Yomi, but I think of my kollel a lot, and I think, wow, I should help them because that's my shutfas. That's where I have, my Yanika as well. So I'm pleased and honored to have, hopefully, a Yanika from this kollel as well. And David shall help him, Hashem. We should be able to, through all this work, we should be able to hasten the bias of Mashiach b'meir b'meini. Amen.
Rab Chesky, stay here 1 minute. You guys don't know where are the photographers. This Friday is a very big day in the calendar. Besides being Chavav, it's the birthday of our dear friend Shlomi Greenwald. Since I'm not going to see him Friday, this Shlomi, it's his birthday. A gift to the world, especially to us over here, our partners and members of the kollel. So I want to represent you, me and Chesky together. We have over here. Oh, wow. A pre-birthday birthday cake. Please come up, Shlomi. Happy birthday. Now I find out that this Gan Rosh Kollel has a birthday the same day as you, Shlomi, Rabbi Hamnik. Give him the cake, half of it. Tashir Shama, ani ba le'echol. I would like to call up. Before Shlomi said there's 3 Sturges. I know Rebel Eunuch before all of you know him. From my days in Torah Semes. Before he was a steward, exactly. When he was still a Tomim in Torah Semes. After Torah Semes, you can conquer the whole world. Beryl, we'll leave it for another different time. And I want to tell you something. Again, I'm not going to give a spadim because that's not my part. But many, many times when I lived in this neighborhood and the people would knock on the door for tzedakah, it was always that Shlomi gave, that Beryl was involved in giving tzedakah to something that it wasn't so popular, but something that was very important. And he keeps up with it. אתה דוגמה, אני לא יודע איך להגיד את זה בשפה אחרת, כי אני איתך לדבר בעברית. You are a role model of chesed, of caring, to things that are the most important, but not as hip as people think. Keep up your amazing work. I would like to call up Beryl to say a few words in honor of his partners, in honor of the Kollel. Bevakasha, Beryl. I just want to say that those of you who are not in the Kollel, you can go on kollel.nyc is the website. You can see all the shiurim there, from Rabbi Jacobson, from the Rabbonim, from the shiurim. It's a good thing to tap into.
Thank you, Dudi. I don't think we need any more speakers or speeches. The cause of this Kollel, everyone understands. I just want to bring out two nekudas about the Kollel Younger Light and about the Kollel itself, the idea of the Kollel. You know, Shlomi called me up last week. He said they're making a siyum, maybe come. You know, it's a short siyum, Erev Yontev. Everyone is in a rush. 1 hour. Sagen a paar Wörter. I said, okay. I see Baruch Hashem a ganze chasana to gemacht al chveide shel Torah. Shlomi always surprises us. So, you know, it reminded me, Shlomi says, you know, sagen a paar Wörter. Reb Zusha, just saw a story of Reb Zusha Vilimovsky. He said that we are soldiers of the Rebbe. Anachnu chayalim. We are soldiers. And he said that a soldier never goes to sleep. Do you ever see a soldier goes to sleep? You know, he has a job. He has to guard. He has to protect the Medina. No was, sagt schlafen tun wir nicht. Aber zulegen sich ein bisschen, abruhen sich, kommen a Porsche. This is what he said. So, you know, by us Chassidim, we don't give speeches, aber sagen ein paar Wörter, you know, for the event. Das ja. So the Alter Rebbe in this parsha, he said something interesting. That's interesting, of course, interesting. But Yesodisdik says, "B'yoyma hu yeh Hashem echad u'shmei echad." Mashiach will come, then it's going to be Hashem echad u'shmei echad. Until Mashiach comes, it's only Hashem echad. We are working on the Shmei echad. This is our shlichus. This is what he says. Our shlichus, and he brings down from Avraham Avinu that about Avraham Avinu we say that it says in the pasuk that Avraham Avinu says Kel Elam, not Kel Ha Elam, is that he did not make the Eibishter, that the Eibishter is the God of the world. That's two different things. But Kel Elam, that the world and the Eibishter are one Metzias. The same thing, there is then the same thing. We could say, I want to say something about the Kollel Younger Light. I came in a few times to the Kollel. I know some of the Younger Light. You know, there are sometimes Younger Light that get married and they have a certain agenda. You know, until they get to the agenda, they like to go to a Kollel to learn. You know, until they find the shlichus, till they find a job. You know, very nice. The Younger Light in this Kollel are Younger Lights that learning and their life are not two different things. That sometimes they learn, you know, they have a geschmack. Their Leben is lernen Torah. This is something that was be'ovar when they were bachrim. This is something they do be'hoiva. And this is something that they're going to do be'osid, because this is their life. And you could see when you walk into the Kollel, you could see that. The Rebbe said once, B'negei yeshiva, but it applies anywhere. How do we know that a bacher has a geschmack in learning? Where do we see it? So the Rebbe said two things. Eins, if he learns bekoil, he learns with achayis, you see as a lep with them. And the second thing is when the seder is finished, yeah, that he continues learning, because he's not learning, he's not working over here on the clock. This is his inyan. This is what we could see with these Kollel Younger Light. Das is a, you know, there's a story in Lubavitch. And Lubavitch was a small city, but Lubavitch had everything. You know the story. Lubavitch had a Meshuggah. Lubavitch also had a ganef. Says where the sailed in Lubavitch, it was a ganef, and I think his name was Pinchas. But if not, I hope you will forgive me. Anyway, so this ganef, everyone was afraid. They used to walk on the street, and the people were in the house. They used to see him. They quickly they went inside. They closed the door. They put on the curtain. Zamere gehat, you know, but Pinchas the Ganef. So he came Shabbos and Yontiv, you know, they walk by from Shul, and then he walks by a house and he sees everyone. So he says, hey, I'm a Rafume Yid, Shabbos gan wir nicht. Please. Shabbos, Yontiv, don't worry, you don't have to run, you don't have to close any curtain. Okay, fine. And as he walks away, he mumbles, aber Shabbos guck ich, was ich erkennen tun nach Shabbos. So, and this they say, Eimol Aganef, Alamol Aganef, meaning that his Betzias, sometimes he doesn't steal, but he's a Ganef. I mean, Merube mit der Teva, Lahavdel Elef Avdolas, this is also some, you know, the younger light over here, the 11 is learning Torah. And you know, sometimes they have to do other things, but this is Kihem Chayenu, this is their Kach. And therefore, this is what brings us to the second thing, B'negea, the purpose of the Kollel that we spoke about before. And I would just like to bring out the point, maybe a little bit of a different, same way, but maybe a little bit different. This Kollel, like Rabbi Jacobson mentioned, there's many Kollels. There's many Kollels. Novas. No, there is something very, very important that's a chelik from Afatzos Amayonis, that the Frierdiker Rebbe had such a tremendous emphasis on it, and the Rebbe always had, was to send Rabbonim to cities, because the Rav is the Ruach Chaya, the Chut HaShedra of a Kehillah. And this is something that I think that it was a little bit, because Baruch Hashem, we are big, not a big, you know, Lubavitch, Baruch Hashem, you know, is scheint the ganze Welt, but maybe in this Indian, because there's so many shluchim and there's so many moizdes, that this is something that it needed a kollel where we cannot wegstellen younger light, because a younger man that takes over a kehillah, and we're not talking about Lubavitcher kehillas. Every year there's multiple kehillas that are looking for a rav, and if we could take those younger lights, und wegstellen these kehillas, this is the biggest shlichus, that could ever happen. Started the Frierdiker Rebbe did it, and the Rebbe did it. So I want to say chazak, chazak. I want to say again thank you to Reb Shloime and to the whole staff over here. Seinen Ibegigem belev ubenefesh should be a tremendous atzlacha. The Rebbe zal haben nachas, and every younger man should be neir le'echad, neir le'meya. And we should all be zeiches a ksiva v'chasima teva, a good gebenched yo, begashim es. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rebel Eunuch. Achroin Chaviv, don't go anywhere. Dessert is still coming, and we still have to go for that cake. Guys, I still have to get to Muncie tonight, so don't go anywhere. I would like to call upon Arav Reb Chaim Shapiro, Rosh Yeshiva in Morristown. You heard already from Reb Shlomo Greenwald about Reb Chaim Shapiro. Every time when I come into the Kollel, somehow I'm zeicher to see him there, either for bringing or speaking. Please, closing remarks by Reb Chaim Shapiro.
Shikoyach, Bishus, Choshev Menschen, Rabbonim, Rosh Yeshiva, the Rosh Kollel, the Sgan Rosh Kollel, Yalla Choshev Hazamat. I'm not going to speak long, it's late. You have to get back to Pomona, I have to get back to Morristown. Muncie, I'm sorry, Baruch Shem Kvoid, Baruch Shem Kvoid, Malchusay Lo'ilam Vod. Shikoyach Reb Shloime, Rav Shloime Greenwald for your Hatzike Porverte before. Just to say a quick milsa, the b'dicha, it's famous, but it still always makes me laugh. The younger man wasn't going to Kollel, so his wife said, "Was ich geschehen?" Sagt "Hein bin ich fleischig, kid. Darf ich trinken the coffee in Kollel?" Darf ich nicht gehen. But the MS is that in Chitas this week, in Chumash this week's Parsha, so where it says, "Lo yemever la yomi, ki korev elecha adovar me'oid beficho bilvavcha la'asoisoi." The inyan is the la'asoisoi. The limud ha'Torah has to be la'asuk yishmaitze aliba de hilchase. How many times did we hear the Rebbe by Fabrengen speak about limud ha'Torah and be'ikir la'asuk yishmaitze aliba de hilchase? And this kollel is extremely unique, qualified with qualified rabbonim, which teach the Yungelite la'asuk yishmaitze aliba de hilchase. And the vision of the menayel of the kollel to recognize that it's not just stam kollel vus mesitztem lernt, which is very, very important, very, very necessary, but this specific uniqueness of the kollel of la'asuk yishmaitase aliba de hilchase. Shlomo, you appreciate the inyan of halacha l'maaseh. I know this because we met many, many years ago learning halacha l'maaseh. And the truth is, Shlomi, he's not a balaisik. He happens to be a balaisik. And I'm only mentioning this because mimeno yidu v'chein yasu. He's a yid that his ikir is Torah. Limud ha'Torah bepoil. You mentioned before, Rebbe ben Aganev, the Rebbe always quoted from the Friedrich Rebbe many, many times, as Azevi Aganev is nicht der, was kon gamvenen, nor der, was gamvet bepoil, is Azeh chalamden, is nicht der, was kon lernen, nor der, was lernt bepoil. It's in the Kutesichis, it's in many, many places, but I heard it from the Rebbe myself many, many times. It's nicht einer nor, was kon lernen, und stitz lernen. Pashat sits and learns. Kipshutei, kimashmoi, all the time. The connection of the Zvulun, so to speak, to the Yisachar Yungelite that are learning is different than any other mitzvah, as was mentioned before by Rav Hamnik. Was is azoi gefährlich if you don't have a chelik in the mitzvahs Talmud Torah? What would be if you have sachakel mitzvah tzedakah? You have to learn, like the Alter Rebbe said, you have a chiyuv to be mefarnes your mishpacha. I have a chiyuv to teach my children. Let's make a shutfus. Sure? You have a mitzvah tzedakah. They have to learn. What could be much greater than supporting Torah? Yet we find that here is tifet. It's not the pshat that you only have mitzvah tzedakah, which tzedakah is mitzvah stam from the biggest mitzvah. With tzedakah von stitz and Torah, with Yisachar Zvulun, for some reason it's nigeh benefesh to the noisei tzedakah that he should have a chelik in the Torah. He has a chelik in the schar of the Torah, however it works. And I want to be moistif. There's actually four. There's the loimed Torah, there's the Zvulun, the Shtitzer, the Toimech HaTorah. There's the Noshim, as the Gemara says in a few places in Shas. The Rebbe brings it also in Ayem Yem, that they're waiting for their husbands and their sons have a chelik. There's also the wives of the Gvidim, of the Balabatim. Because if the husbands of them have a chelik in the Torah, their wives certainly also have a chelik in the Torah. Because this mitzvah is v'talmud Torah keneged kulam. Torah is different than shtitz in any other mitzvah. You can give tzedakah to help someone keep Shabbos. You could give tzedakah to help someone buy tefillin. All that doesn't say anywhere that you have a chelik in the mitzvah's tefillin. But by Talmud Torah keneged kulam, there's a chelik in the actual Talmud Torah, whether it's Gereya or it's not Gereya. Das ist in ganzen nicht negeya. And Baruch Hashem, the vision is here. The Hatzloch and the Kollel, I was a few times in the Kollel. I know some of the Ingelite that are also Talmidim who learned by us in Yeshiva. And I could say Eidus that they're certainly made ala klal kula yotzo, that these Ingelite are Ingelite wo sitzen und lernen Teire bepoil. La suke schmeite sa liebe de hilgese mit der koch und mit der brenn. And there's no question about it that they're certainly giving nachas to Klal Yisrael, nachas to the Rebbe. And I'll be moisif, what the Rebbe used to tell Bar Mitzvah Bochrim, at least I heard this from a few people, he used to say, the Rebbe, haben nachas von sich und geben nachas zu den Älteren und zu anderen. But the Ikir is haben nachas von sich. The Rebbe told it to a 13-year-old Bocher. Because at the end of the day, the person that gains the most from giving nachas to others is the person that's giving the nachas. V'amahot nachas von sich echet. Everyone here has nachas. Nachas von sich, the lernes, nachas von sich, the toimchim, the Menayalim, the Rosh Yeshivas, the Sgan Menayalim, everyone that's involved has clear nachas from sich alein and gives nachas to others. I just want to, if I may, for mamish for 3 minutes, share one avort that I remember from the Rebbe. in the last Fabrengen in Parsha Vayakal, which is very much Negei also. We said before, mentioned, Ben Dvar Hashem Zu Aloche. Dvar Hashem is Gili Lakus. It's Malchus. Malchus is Dibur. Malchus is Gili. That's clear Gili Lakus. So the Rebbe asked by Fabrengen then, how could it be that the first thing, Yid wakes up in the morning, he says, Meidani Lefonecha. How's that possible? Kitzer, the Rebbe answered based on yesterday's Rambam. Yesterday's Rambam, the famous Rambam in Sofilchus Gedushin, Keifenes Hashem Bereitzani, that Be'emes, every single Yid wants to do what the Eibishter wants. Yitzru, Sha'onseit, Parichis, the end of Perik Beis, one of the most famous Lubavitcher Rambam, so to speak. Maimer HaMuzgir, some of the Meforshim say that it doesn't apply to a mummer, which pretty much pulls the rug out of the whole word. And someone asked me the shaila, it bothered me. So, wie stimmt es? So, Bashgacha Protes, last year we learned Bob Metzi in all the yeshivas, so everyone was learning the Kuntis Shnai Mechsen, that the Rebbe had the Rishima and Shnai Mechsen. So the Rebbe brings there this Rambam, and he writes, or the Agois Maimonides, that it applies even to a mummer. So the whole Yesoid is based on the Agois Maimonides, that it didn't even applies to a mummer, that Keifenes Hashem, because Bepnimis, he wants to do what the Eibishter wants. Zog der Rebbe Azeh, Amere dike Wort. Eba Azeh, B'shas Hayid schloft, B'shas Hayid is sleeping, so his own personal Ratzainus are not there. So what's he left with? He's left with his Ratzin Pnimi. As a Lakus b'pshitis. The Rebbe used the words, the Lakus b'pshitis, un Elam is b'yischatches. So he said. So when Hayid sleeps, idach Dvar Hashem, idach Gilei Lakus. That's the main thing. There's nothing else. Because that's the Pnimi Savid. When you're awake, Shador HaYetzer, Yitzreu Sha'onsei, Shador HaYetzer Teiv, Ambol Sha'onsei, Mahot Nachas von sich, there's nothing. Only what the Eibishter wants. Mela says the Rebbe, when you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing? What's the idea? The idea is that this Meidani Lefonecha has to continue throughout the day. That Gilui Likus that we have needs to continue throughout the day and continue throughout our whole entire lives. Ashrei Chelkom Begoidel Schusam. From those that are involved in being Megale Lekus Ba'ilam through Dvar Hashem Zu Alocha. And the Rebbe continued in that Fabrengen. He talked about Schlofen, sleeping, and he gave a scream. Und so dort, Divi, der Rambam schreibt in Ilchus Tshuva, wo seine Yeshenim behavle Hazman. The Rebbe gave a scream. So the last Fabrengen in the Tovshin and Beis. The Schlofen behavle Hazman. Who's taking care of the Shlofers behavle Hazman? Those that are doing in Dvar Hashem. Zu halacha, Gilei Likus Ba'olam, and by extension to be Mekarev and Meifitz the Oir to other Yidden and to other Yidden to be a Tefeach al Menas Latfiach. I'm going to conclude with a bracha that we should all of us be Zeiche to continue to be Meifitz the Dvar Hashem, to be Meifitz the Eirach Sidus. The Tamchin de Reise, the supporters should continue to have Atzloche, to have bigger and bigger Chalokim in the Torah, to be able to support more Meisters of Torah, and to support mit a freilicher Herz. And I think it was Chesky that mentioned the Ayin Tova, to support and give tzedakah mit a freilicher Herz is one of the most beautiful things that you can find by a person. I'm all getting mit achkrechts, abdieve, the Chorsh Cabrera. I learned in Tanya yesterday. I got a call for tzedakah and I gave because I learned in Tanya yesterday that you have to give. Nicht as I darf me geben. I darf geben because you have to have a simche zu geben. Nicht as I was steht in Tanya. And that you teach us. You teach us that you do things properly. I'm in touch with Shlomi for many, many years, and that's one of the things that I learned. You don't do things halfway. I'm a tut. You do it right, and you do it right from the beginning. We should all have a ksivich simeteva, a good gebenched yor, betev hanire v'hanigle, and bring Mashiach tzidkenu bekorev mamish. Shikoyach.
Yo, time for dessert, time for some music. What is it? בטח מוזיקה. אתה רוצה שאני אשיר? הנני אני ממס. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Rabbonim. Thank you, partners. Thank you, Kollel Banquet. Ich gehe Monsi und ich lasse euch da. And I wish you all a ksiva v'chasima teva, l'shona teva mesuka b'teva nira v'anigla teche from Yad Mamish. of Rosh Hashanah, one for me, one for